Welcome. Good evening. Welcome to the December 4th, 2008 meeting of the Lake Forest City Council. And for your extra added pleasure tonight, we're convening the Lake Forest Housing Authority as well. And it will run concurrently with the City Council meeting. Today, the invocation will be read by Pastor Steve DiNicola from Calvary Chapel in Foothill Ranch. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Will you bow your hearts and heads with me? Heavenly Father, as we recognize, Lord, you as the giver of light and all good gifts, Lord, our hearts bow before you. As the Jewish people have celebrated the gift of light that you provided in the temple so many years ago through Hanukkah this week. And as Christians, celebrate the gift of the light of the world that you provided in your Son just 3 weeks from today, Lord. I thank you, Lord, for light and illumination. And I ask, Lord, that you would give illumination to each one of these council members and those that are here to present their problems, their concerns, and their requests, Lord. Father, we ask your guidance in your direction this evening. And Lord, I want to pray a special blessing on all these your servants. Thank you for their dedication to serve the people of our community. And Lord, I ask that you'd bless them back, bless their homes, their households, and their families. And we pray all these things in the precious name of your Son. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by Colonel Cagley.
Please rise. If you're prior military, you can render a hand salute if you wish. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have our report from the student liaison, Stefano Polito, El Toro High School. Welcome back.
Good evening, council members. On November 30th through December 2nd, El Toro High School hosted our music and lights events, hosted by our vocal music and drama department in our stadium. We had winter crafts, games, activities, and a Meet Santa booth for El Toro students in our community. All Saddleback Valley Unified School District high schools have a leadership conference at Laguna Hills High School on Monday, December 10th for all Saddleback Valley Unified School District middle school ASBs. At this conference, we will be running multiple instructional workshops on subjects such as Spirit Days and community service. We will also be having guest speakers from multiple high school ASBs. In sports news, congratulations to ET Boys and Girls Cross Country for competing at the California State Meet this past weekend. This is both the boys and girls team's second year straight competing at the state meet and only the second time in our school's history. It was the boys' 12th state meet and the girls' 5th meet. Our boys team finished 9th and girls finished 10th in Division 2. Way to go, boys and girls track. Shout out to freshman Jackson Parker for taking second place in his first varsity wrestling tournament at the CDM Battle of the Bay tournament. And congratulations to our girls wrestling team who placed first in their championship against 19 schools on Saturday. This December, El Toro High School will be holding 2 back-to-back Wellness Wednesdays. Our first Wellness Wednesday will be held on December 5th with guest speakers from Laura's House, who will be holding a presentation on healthy versus unhealthy relationships and how to handle them. On December 12th, there will be a mindful meditation seminar that will be teaching students helpful breathing techniques for stressful times. El Toro's Sophomore Parent Night will be held on Wednesday, December 5th at 7 p.m. in Charger Hall. Guidance counselors will be providing important information regarding graduation requirements and options after high school. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you all so much for your time, and as always, go Chargers.
Thank you. Now we have the presentations, And thank you, Deborah. I said we wanted to have an award and a presentation every time, and here we are doing it again. Can I have a motion to approve the presentations?
Second.
Okay, please vote. All right, the first presentation will be the Mayor's Award. 10 years ago, I'm having lunch at Bagels and Brew with my wife and my 2 dogs. And a friend of my wife comes up to me and she says, hey, we'd like to have a animal shelter and a dog park here in Lake Forest. Would you help us? I said, yeah, sure, that sounds like something I'd help you do. So I came to my first city council meeting then 10 years ago. And quite frankly, I could not believe what I saw. I'm a former professor. I worked for Fortune 500 companies. But still, the quality of work being done, they would say a study. We did a study. I said, that doesn't make any sense to me that there was a study. Could I have a copy of the study? And eventually I'd get a copy of the study and it would be somebody drove by somewhere and looked at something. That was the quality of work was really poor, at least in my perception. And here we are 10 years later. 10 years later, the staff here are cranking out stuff that is just top-notch stuff, world-class stuff, leading financial and technology and communications. We've come so far, and that was the reason that earlier this year we decided we would have an award just to recognize how truly excellent our staff are doing in what is reinventing government. It really makes me very proud and very happy to see what they've done. We have 158 people here that work for the city. That doesn't include the contract people, but 158 full-time, part-time. They do all kinds of things from wandering the streets looking for code violations to accounting to storm water quality, etc. They do diverse things, so we asked the staff to come up with some criteria. They came up with looking for excellence in performance, in innovation, and in customer service. Those were the criteria that they looked at the staff with. They came back to us with 7 individuals and 1 entire division were nominated for the award, and I guess they whittled that down to 4 employees and 1 division as finalists. And so first I'm going to recognize the finalists, and then we'll talk about the last 2 finalists, kind of like Dancing with the Stars, and then we'll come up with a winner. Anyhow, the finalists were Adrian is Adrian here tonight? No. Oh, Adrian, yeah. Adrian's, I said at the last meeting, Adrian, for a time there, was carrying the whole thing. You and the intern are carrying the whole department by yourself. Did an absolutely terrific job, and we're so happy that they didn't steal him away at Anaheim like they were stealing everybody else. So thank you for the excellent work, Adrian. Doug Mabratney, is he here? Okay, Doug is in our IT. When the printer goes down in my office, as it does almost every day, or every time I'm here, he comes in and solves it and really keeps everything going. It's one of the reasons we have done so well in technology and why we're so advanced in technology. So I'm sorry he's not here, so I can recognize him in person. And Jonathan, is Jonathan here? Jonathan Poole. Jonathan's been involved in our ARC GIS system, and for those of you who've used that, that's a marvelous system, really very helpful. So these are the three finalists. There were 2 more finalists, and believe me when I say it was extremely difficult. Mayor Pro Tem Basil and I got to make the choice, and it was an extremely difficult choice to make. The choice was between the communications, or they call themselves PIO. What's that mean? Public Information Office. Should come up with a better acronym. I'm not sure PO is the best sounding acronym. Anyhow, the Communications Division, and Carlo, is Carlo here? Carlo Tomaino. Those were the 2 people we had to choose between. Oh, and I should tell you, when I was discussing with the city manager, I said, well, what about the police? Under Lieutenant Valentine, he's been here 4.5 years, and 4 of those years are the lowest crime rate the city has ever had. So I wanted to throw you in the mix, and she said we couldn't because you're a contract, you're not an employee, because you're a contract. But believe me, when we were talking about who's doing an excellent job and who's helping improve the quality of life in the city, you were up there, but you didn't qualify. Number 107, these are the additional tasks I give her to do here on my list. Number 107 would be to give an award to the contract people too, because the contract, most of our stuff is contract. So it would not be out of place to go ahead and award them for excellence too. And we've had the guy managing the Civic Center, the police, so that would be another 107. You're not writing it down? No, okay. It's my last night. She doesn't have to pay attention to me. She doesn't return my calls anymore, so she's not going to write it down. Anyhow, I think that would be a good thing to do. I'm going to briefly show you some of the things before we announce the winner. Could we put up the slideshow to show you what the PIO folks were doing and what Carlo's been doing this year? It's communications team. So our very successful stopping that 400-bed homeless shelter was aided by their video and by their excellent communication. The Don't Make It Easy, which is a police program, also a project that they undertook, and we had seen a significant decrease in crimes of opportunity as a result of that. The online neighborhood watch, which we're just now creating, they are squiring that project, and we expect to have a lot of potential future crimes to be eliminated by that. Of course, they gave us Facebook Live. We were the first city in the nation to actually allow people to participate live with us, and later on during the comment section, people will be able to participate live and understand other people are doing it now, but we were the first, and they did all of that. Pop-up city halls. Pop-up city halls, we had 2 of them that were very successful. We had one that was a dud. But those are really excellent places. 30 or 50 people show up, and it gets, who ordinarily wouldn't come to City Hall, gives them a chance to talk. That with Jonathan was a big help in getting that done. It's Brett, it's Jonathan, it's Skylar sitting in the back there, and those are the 3 people. Alex is not here, right? All right. So those are the 3 guys who together have had these efforts. The Mayor's Minute, we did 40-something versions of that. I think one of them was your second highest. Social media things, a way to keep people informed about what's happening in the city. And they helped create the new mobile app, the My Lake Forest app, which is up and running now. It's a little bit buggy, but it is up and running now. Can we go to full screen? Oh, there we are. We're back on full screen. And now they helped with the Shop and Dine mobile app. I don't know if you people use that, but there's all kinds of bargains and discounts available on that all the time. 1,000 people have downloaded it. We have 500 businesses. They improved the council meetings. They added the pre-show information. If you came here early, saw all that stuff about the city. They added a greeter. We have improved visual aids. We have a handout at the end that tells you about. So they spruced up the council meetings to make them more meaningful. And they created social media buzz. I mean, our Nextdoor, our Facebook, our Twitter, all of our social media is doing really well, and the last time I saw statistics from you, much better. We were growing much better than our neighbors were growing. So those guys did a ton of work, and that's why they were among the 2 finalists in the to get the Maribel. That's Dancing with the Stars, my wife's favorite show. Carlo runs our business development. We expanded this year, Shop and Dine, to a month long, and we had the most people and the most businesses we ever had before. And Adrian is, who we introduced before, works with Carlo in this area. Nothing to do with business development. Carlo was our go-to person in our response to the homeless challenge. We have probably the most advanced program in South Orange County in terms of dealing with the homeless. And Carlo took that all on by himself, did a marvelous job, and continues to do a marvelous job in that area. At home, we got a multi-billion-dollar furniture superstore to come in and take up 80,000 square feet of vacant space, and that's dozens of new jobs, $60,000 per year in tax revenue, and we almost lost it. And I called Carlo up and I said, we're going to lose this guy. What can you do? And Carlo saved the day. So Carlo literally created the South Orange County Entrepreneurs Academy. It's the first of its kind. Those of you who know, we used to do all of this. And so that was a labor on us. So he put together 7 cities, I think it is. It's a multi-city. It runs 15 months. 200 participants go in it, and they go from city to city each time, learning and getting advice, learning about business and learning about advice. This is also hopefully part of our homeless prevention program. Keeping these people in business keeps the jobs here, keeps homelessness away. So this is Carlo and Adrian. They came up with this after a little prodding, really by themselves, and then developed it all by themselves. We did a mayor's pitch to the Asian Business Council where we competed against Anaheim and Irvine and beat their pants off, and 24 people asked to set up businesses here in Lake Forest. That was all Carlos's work. We now do the Best of OC recognition. Orange County Register says these are the best people, and we bring them here, we give them awards, and we thank them for the Lake Forest businesses that come up number one in the county. And again, Carlo and his division developed that. He just updated the Economic Development Action Plan, and if you're a business, you really should take a look at that. If you're coming into the council, you really need to review that. That's an excellent plan, going far beyond anything we've ever done before and reaching out to attract new businesses rather than just sitting there and waiting for businesses to show up and say they're here. That by itself is a monumental task. It's only one of the dozen or so things. And the winner is... Ta-da. Such a pleasure to have all of those people, but to have those two did so much, and I'm cutting it short. I could go on forever, but the winner turns out to be Carlo. Carlo, would you come up? I will take a picture, but because they came in second, they didn't win. He's going to cut our heads off. So. Yeah, good. Okay, he gets a plaque, and let's see the cash here. Not just a plaque. Plaques on the wall. $250 worth of coupons to Lake Forest businesses. So. Thank you so much. You did a terrific job. Can I have the other people come up? Adrian, Jonathan, and Brett.
Mr. Mayor, would you mind if the council joined? I want to be part of this.
Yeah, I want to get those guys up here first. And Jonathan, Adrian, Jonathan, Scott, and council, would you please join us? Many other people could have been here, but this is, these guys have done a really terrific job. Thank you to all the employees, and we look forward to seeing who wins next year. Yeah, I'd like you to join me in a big round of applause for these guys.
Agenda item number 2 is Employee Service Awards submitted by Director of Management Services.
We have a short presentation from our Director of Management Services, Brett Channing.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Back in 2002, the City Council established an Employee Service Award program, which recognizes employees who have hit a milestone year of service with the City of Lake Forest. The milestone year of service includes all those in multiples of 5, and in 2018, the City had 16 employees hit a milestone anniversary, and some of them are here tonight to be recognized. So I know you all just sat down, but I actually wanted to ask you all to get back up and come on down as we recognize all the employees that are here tonight to be recognized. So we will start off with those with a 5-year anniversary. And the first person is Douglas Erdmann. Get a picture. Next we have Jonathan Poole. Yes. Go ahead, stay standing. Next, Adrian Grahova. Next is Peter Meyer. All right, and now we're moving on to the 10-year service awards. The first one up is Jennifer Connolly. And next is Ron Santos. And now we are moving on to 15-year service awards. Nicholas Gates. That's right. Also, one more 15-year Scott Stewart. And our last, but certainly not least, and very special award this year is for 25 years, celebrating her Jubilee, Gail Ackerman. All right, now I ask everyone to come on in for a big group picture. We're going to have to move this. Thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to the public comment section of the agenda. As a reminder, if you would like to participate, please fill out a blue speaker card, turn it into the city clerk, and your name will be called. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. When you're called to speak, you will see 3 lights, the first being green. When you have 30 seconds left, the light will turn to yellow, and when your time has expired, the light will turn to red. At that time, your public comment period has ended, and the council requests that you conclude your comments. Madam Clerk, have we received any requests to speak?
Yes, Your Honor. Neil Morrison, followed by Vincent Burke.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. As suggested, my name is Neil Morrison. I live at 24625 Via Tonata in Forest Creek. My wife and I have been permanent residents of El Toro and Lake Forest since 1973. He has always admired what a great community we live in. However, in the past election, needless to say, we were very disturbed about what took place between Mr. Morper and Ms. Motazidi. Sorry for the pronunciation. The demeaning of Nikki Pass was inconceivable and has no place in this community. Needless to say, many of City's District 2 residents felt the same and spoke out that this type of mudslinging and dirty politics is not welcomed here. Also, in an article in the Register regarding this type of politics, prior to the election and shortly after, Mr. Morper and I guess Mr. Adams sent out a really bad and not truthful flyer against Nikki. The Register noted that due to this election and previous elections here in the city of Lake Forest has become the hub of such dirty and mudslinging politics in Orange County. This, too, is not acceptable to us residents. Please clean up your act. If you want to get elected or re-elected, base it on your principles and how you plan to keep this great community great, not on dirty politics. Leave that for the White House. One last note, I'm very glad to see Mr. Teddemer back on the council. He's been a guiding light in the past and will be so in the future. You can learn a lot from him. Congratulations, Mark. My second issue has to do with the second article I read recently regarding the financial status of the city. I'm very proud of the city's management and city council in being debt-free, including pension obligations. This is huge in today's economy. As a resident, this is great news, and I commend everyone here at the city. However, in this same article, it mentioned that the $72 million Civic Center was being placed in the back of developers and builders. This, to me, having spent many years as a civil engineer working with developers and builders and watching cities and counties do the same, is wrong. We all know that such costs are only passed on to the buyer. It would be a huge benefit to us all, including new residents and businesses, and the cost should be borne equally by all. But the way you have set it up, less than 25% of the final count of residents and businesses will bear the cost. This type of thinking and logic can also be considered a key contributor to why housing has become so expensive here in Orange County. This is also a contributing factor as to why our children and many other residents' children here and throughout the county cannot afford to live here anymore. As an example, both of our children have moved out of state so they could realize the lower housing costs. Please rethink this. Thanks and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Vincent Burke, followed by Rose Tingle.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Vincent Burke, Lake Forest. I'm just going to read a couple excerpts from the Traffic and Parking Commission Agenda Report, October 25, 2018. In July 2018, the city received an information packet and a petition from 2 neighborhood representatives from Bennett Ranch and a letter from Bennett Ranch Homeowners Association Legal Counsel requesting that the city implement permit parking for all the streets in the Bennett Ranch where permit parking had not already been implemented. The city is in the process of installing the signs and issuing permits for the approximately 200 homes in Bennett Ranch and expects to complete the process no later than end of November. Well, in the Cedar Springs, Glen Acres streets, the signs appear to be posted. I have just one simple request. I would like to receive a copy of the overflow parking survey conducted for the said Bennett Ranch streets. Thank you very much.
Do we have your email address?
Yes, you do.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. Rose Tingle. I established the Citizens for Animal Shelter Orange County, and my other hat is also the establishment of the Animal Kinship Ministry. Compassion is my religion. That's how I see you, Mayor Jim Gardner. I've known you for a long time. We started the fight for better care of animals and service to constituents many years ago. Because no politician on the city council cared, even though the county animal shelter was over 70 years old, dangerous, unhealthy for the public as well as the animals, you decided to run for city council here in the city. Since that time, I know your focus has gone to other issues on the city, but I still regard you as a very compassionate person. No matter what anybody may say, I think I know you better. Baptists, and I bring this up because it says, "In God we trust," in back of the city council, and also because 2 of your city council members also have mention of their religious activities on the website. Baptist Reverend Billy Graham stated, "God cares about his creation and the care of his creation, animals, and to disrespect them is to disrespect God." I was with you and Laguna Hills council member when you visited the old shelter when it was in the city of Orange, and I saw your eyes water up when you saw the condition the animals were kept in. Now, thanks to you and Dr. Saskia Bosat and other animal advocates, we have a brand new county-owned animal shelter in Tustin with a forward-thinking animal shelter director, Mike Caviani. Thank you, Dr. Gardner. God bless you, and thank you, God. I believe that prayers in this case worked, and I wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank you very much.
Bob Holtzclaw, followed by Juan Gonzalez.
Actually, nobody in the county worked harder to get us a new shelter than that woman there, Rose Tingle. So there would not be a new shelter had it not been for 15 years of work by Rose. Thank you. Bob, welcome.
Hello, my name is Bob Holtzclaw. I'm your vector control appointee for Lake Forest. And just going to read off some of the local things here for our vector control. I get one of these printouts every month, and it shows exactly what's been happening in the city. Mosquitoes, we've had service for 36 different people, calls. Rats, 13. And the mosquitoes problem actually in the city is mostly it's overwatering. Matter of fact, our major HOAs, including myself, my HOA does a little bit overwatering. I always complain about them, turning on the sprinklers too much because it fills up the creeks, and then they'll use little pools of water where mosquitoes actually survive. Even the city is probably in that category too. But right now we have more of a rat problem, usually in this city, because we're on a slope, so mosquitoes don't really gather in our sewer system as much as other cities, like Huntington Beach or Buena Park. Total for the county, we've had 11 cases of West Nile for the year. One case, one lady died. That was the lady from Tustin, and she did pass away from West Nile disease. We have Aedes mosquito at Aliso Creek area, and what the last meeting we had, by 2020 it should be all over the city. So it's really hard to stop these things, but we try to do our best. Empty flower pots, pools and things like this. Most of that 36 mosquito services that we did were like swimming pools, bird baths that we had to go in the backyard and treat to kill it, because they'd be green and everything else over there, and so we have to treat these things in this personal backyards. Statewide, the Aedes mosquito. We've done this in Africa, and they infect for infected mosquitoes with Wolabaga. Bega? Yeah, that's it. It's a common bacteria, and what they do is in the laboratory they'll treat it with this bacteria, and they become infertile. And right now we're trying it also in Fresno. So right now Fresno's doing it. Now I'll have some more information on that when it comes up, because I'm kind of always leery about having mosquitoes treated by science and everything else to see how it works. Okay, thank you.
Time is up. City Manager, do we have information on our website about what people should do to discourage mosquitoes? We do have that. Okay, great, thank you. Next.
Juan Gonzalez, followed by Colleen Pavey.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of Council. Juan Gonzalez, SoCal Gas Public Affairs Manager. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity before you today. Number one, let me start off by giving you guys kudos. I can really appreciate you guys taking the time to recognize your employees, taking valuable time. Obviously, the folks do a good work for the community, and obviously something that's promoted within the city. So, again, kudos to you to recognize the hard work and dedication for all these employees in this city. I'm sure that goes a long way in developing great morale. Secondly, I wanted to wish you all happy holidays. Christmas is coming along, so wish you and your families happy holidays. And the other purpose of my visit today, and primarily for informational purposes, I wanted to provide you some details regarding some activity taking place in the state legislature last year that can potentially impact all of us. As you're fully aware, SoCal Gas provides natural gas to 20,000 square miles, so from Visalia all the way to the Mexican border. We have close to 26.1 million customers. This past legislative session, there's been movement by the state legislature to go all electrical, making people, implying people should move from using natural gas into using all electrical appliances. There was two pieces of legislation that did not move forward. One of them would have required that all homes and all buildings built in California by 2022 be all electrical. And there was another piece of legislation that would require that homes be retrofitted by 2030 to become all electrical. I can share I've been in other city council attendance in other city council meetings where folks have been coming to council trying to find out why the electrical bill has been so high. Now imagine if this was a move by the state to require all of us to go all electric, and what those costs would impose. All of this is being done with the intention to reduce greenhouse gases, and it's understandable. But the way that it's being done, it's being to be subjected to be imposed and not be done by the customer is really tough, and something that should be looked upon. Again, I want to be very clear. SoCal Gas in no way, shape, or form is against electrification, but it should be something that is customer-driven and not something that should be imposed by the state legislature. So I wanted to bring this item to your knowledge. And also, I wanted to share with you that SoCalGas is also working its way to reduce its greenhouse gases, as we're currently working with an environmental company, breaking down organic matter, capturing that and putting that into our pipeline. And I can also share with all of you that we're working with some dairy farms up in the northern portion of our territory, where we're capturing manure, breaking that down, and putting that methane capturing back into our pipeline. So again, just looking for renewable natural gas, and obviously continue to provide safe, affordable, reliable energy to all of our customers. But again, primarily for purposes of information, just wanted all of you to be aware of this item that potentially could come once again to the state legislature. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And again, happy holidays. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleen Pavey Winsel, followed by John Bush.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Mayor, City Council. My name is Colleen Pavey Winsell, and I'm a Lake Forest resident. I lived here for about 28 years. I'm here today to state my opposition to your recent vote for rebates to private property owners for purchasing video systems such as Ring. I understand the decision began with the desire to reduce crime, but I don't think good intentions are enough when you're spending money that's not your own. There are several problems with this rebate program. The first is I don't think taxpayer money should be given to private citizens. I didn't do that.
Not sure if he agrees with you or not.
Taxpayer money should not be given to private citizens for the protection of their own private property. We don't need to incentivize homeowners to protect their own property or to join Neighborhood Watch. Problem number two, where does the incentivizing end? Maybe you should reimburse citizens for private security companies. Maybe we should reimburse citizens for installing fire sprinkler systems. Maybe commercial businesses should get in on the rebate action. It's a slippery slope when you go down that path. Problem number three, regarding the pilot program. What are the specific criteria for the $5,000 rebate program in determining success or failure? Will city staff prepare a list of addresses which get rebates and then provide crime statistics before and after the rebate program to determine its effectiveness? What percentage measurable decrease would qualify as a success? Are there official lists of members of Neighborhood Watch programs, and why are they the only ones eligible? What's to prevent people from joining Neighborhood Watch, getting the rebate, and then quitting Neighborhood Watch? What's to prevent them from installing their Ring systems at another location outside the city of Lake Forest? Will city staff visit the homes to verify the rebate money was actually spent on Lake Forest residences? Problem four, the City Council and Mayor likes to be very proud of the fact that Lake Forest has a very, very low crime rate. But in the same breath, the Council decides crime is so bad in Lake Forest that we must give away money to homeowners to prevent crime. Not sure which is it. Is crime very, very low, or the crime rate's really, really high in Lake Forest? You can't have it both ways. So I urge you to abandon this program. Think more creatively about crime deterrence. That would be an appropriate and effective use of taxpayer money. $5,000 could be better spent, perhaps on extra police services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. That program is going to come back to the City Council probably in January, and so you probably want to keep a watch on the agenda and see when it comes back. We are already talking about many of the things you raised. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. My name is John Bush. I've been pretty much involved with the Lake Forest City Council for a few years. First couple of years on the wrong side with some very corrupt things going on. I am here tonight to congratulate this city for an outstanding choice in the votes for your new city council. What's happened in the past is done. I gave my word to do anything and everything I could possibly do to make sure that the corruption of Adam Nick and his money and the people he's bought on this council do not exist any longer. I am so happy and so proud of the city for doing so. One last thing I would like to ask. Mr. Voights, Mr. Robinson, the two new members, when you vote tonight for the mayor of this city, remember what the voters decided. They said no more garbage, no more Adam Nick money running this city. You have one person who has promoted themselves lately heavily to become mayor, Ms. Basil. I was a campaign manager for her and Adam Nick on the wrong side of the fence. That money came, she knows it, everybody knows it. Her campaign was paid for, most of it not even reported still. Some things have been reported, most of it not. Don't let that happen to the city. Don't continue to have a mayor owned by Adam Nick sitting in the middle of this council. Vote your conscience, vote your residents. They don't want that garbage here. One of you two, one of the new two, need to be the mayor, not somebody being paid by Adam Nick and supported by him and still trying to keep this city a piece of garbage. This is a clean, good city. The citizens voted for it. They cleaned it up. Keep it that way.
Greg Black. Sorry, Greg Black.
Somebody do something with this guy? Walked up, bum me an asshole as I'm walking through. It just shows. There's another Adam Nick page. Oh, go. Excuse me?
Welcome.
Good evening, council. I want to kind of reiterate the last speaker's comments. I, too, am kind of disgusted, having lived here since 2006 with what took place with Nick Adams. I do know that there are still some council members who have had their campaigns provided for. I really don't think it's right for that to happen. I'd like to see this be a fair mayoral election, and I'd like to see it happen that way. Thank you.
Next.
Nothing further from the public, but perhaps Facebook.
Okay, yeah, Facebook Live.
Good evening, Your Mayor. We do have a couple.
Great.
Mike Court, comment for council. Put up small fencing around the walking paths around the new Veterans Park. It took one day after the fake coyotes were removed to make nearly impossible to walk around without stepping in duck poop.
Yeah, it's very disappointing to me that we're not doing a better job. We promised when we said that was going to be the Veterans Memorial that would be the most pristine park. And I've had several complaints from other people too. We passed that on. Any other comments?
Martin Henderson, comment to council. I agree with the first speaker who said the negative mailer that was sent out against Niki Motazzati was a terrible piece of literature and uncalled for. But I would remind him and others that Councilman Robinson and Voights financed a similarly uncouth political campaign that called citizens thugs and pedophiles and painted Councilman Adam Nick as a terrorist based on lies and half-truths. Just as Councilwoman-elect Motazzati called for Mr. Morford to withdraw from the election because of his mere association with Mr. Nick, who was associated with political consultant Bob Schuman, it should be pointed out that Ms. Motazzati's support team, Councilman Robinson and Voights, were in league with a man named Dave Ellis, who routinely was responsible for racist attacks against political opponents, tried to sell the OC Fairgrounds to himself while he was a member of the Fair Board, facilitated the meeting of the principal members responsible for the county's bankruptcy, and campaigned for an international airport at MCAS El Toro, as opposed to a mayor owned by Fred Whitaker of the OC GOP.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? That's it. All right, that brings us to our consent calendar. Oh, Jennifer likes to read them. Let's go ahead. You want me to read them now? Moving on to the consent calendar, items 3 through 8 on the City Council agenda and items 1 through 3 on the Housing Authority agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, have you received any requests to remove an item from the consent calendar?
No, Your Honor.
Colleagues?
Move consent calendar and Housing Authority.
Second?
Second.
Please vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
Madam Clerk, are there items for discussion?
Yes, Your Honor. Agenda item number 9, Saddleback Ranch Road at Millwood Road bulb out modification submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Mayor and members of the council, we have a presentation from our Director of Public Works, Tom Wheeler.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. We've got a few pictures that are being loaded up as we speak. This item comes back to you after council gave us consensus to bring it back after we talked about it at the last CIP report, our study in August. Here we go. I'd like to just talk about it. We have a range of options to discuss about this. It's really to do with Saddleback Ranch Road, where we have a bulb out at Millwood, which, if you recall, the bulb outs were for traffic calming. And there we go. To really slow down the traffic there and allow the people at Millwood to be able to get out quickly. Oh, thank you. So now I am in control. And here we go. So you can see going, let's see, we got our pointer here. But this is Saddleback Ranch Road, going vertically on the picture of Millwood here. This bulb out slows down traffic. It's one single lane going down Saddleback Ranch Road with a 5-foot bike lane, and this allows Millwood people to kind of get their nose out a little bit to see up that road behind that curve and to be able to get out safely. The issue before us is the bike lane there. So right now we have an 11-foot roadway lane and we have a 5-foot bike lane, but as it goes around that the bulb out, there's a pinch point there where there's an existing catch basin. So the 5-foot bike lane is only 1 foot of asphalt and 4 feet of concrete where the catch basin starts. So here's another view of it. You can see it here. The 5-foot width bike lane, and then of course the asphalt, which a biker going down that hill would prefer to be on the asphalt and avoid that the bump there with we call it the catch basin, or the local depression for the water to collect into the catch basin. So we have a range of options before council tonight. This is option 1. Easiest and most straightforward, what we would do is get a grinding machine out there, grind down the concrete here, asphalt over it. It wouldn't be a standard catch basin. It would still work. It would be low cost, and we could go ahead and do that. The costs, we have a range of costs in here. Costs are really difficult to estimate for small projects that are kind of local and one-off here, so we would suggest, if we were to move forward with it, to combine it with a larger project. Perhaps we'll come back up there in 2020 to do our slurry seal project up in Portola Hills. And so if you were to do something, I would suggest we do it then and combine it with that work, make it a lot cheaper, the economies of scale of going up there for one project. So that gives you a magnitude of range of costs. If it were a standalone project, we had to bid it itself, etc. So that's one option to do it. It keeps existing infrastructure in place. Option 2, give it a little more width, give it 4 feet of asphalt. And in order to do that and keep it level, that local depression drops about 6 inches. So in order to keep that level, really makes the catch basin ineffective, so we'd have to relocate that catch basin. So the curb would stay in the same place. We'd move that catch basin to the top of the bulb out. And with that is obviously additional costs. You've got some underground utilities, so we'd really want to design that and look into what we're doing there to avoid any additional costs with utilities and things of that nature. It'd be better for the bikers. It'd give you an extra 3 feet of asphalt. You're starting to move forward with that. Let me show you the option 3, which is just kind of the extreme option. We wouldn't recommend this, but it would be narrowing the bulb out. You'd make that final bike lane about 7 feet wide with 6 feet of asphalt. You'd still have a concrete curb there, or gutter there, for water flow. This is essentially taking out the effectiveness of the bulb out, which we worked hard. If I'm sure all of you remember those days when we were talking about Saddleback Ranch Road. But it does serve a purpose there with the bulb out at Millwood, and so that would really render that ineffective and perhaps bring up those discussions about the bulb outs and their effectiveness at Millwood. With that, we also had another request from Councilmember Basil about adding a striping kind of channelization, if you will. We have this around many of our intersections, but one of the complaints was that as people were coming down the hill from a single lane, going into the double lane, that they'd cut across here too soon and potentially conflict with people trying to come out from from that street. So that would keep them in that lane and make the merge happen farther down the hill. That can be done with striping or a raised median, depending on really council discretion. There's no accident history at that particular intersection since we've implemented the bulb outs. I don't believe was before we implemented it either. So it's really, it could improve things. It's in that realm of really council judgment of you think that's a good idea from a traffic perspective. It certainly channelizes traffic, and we could see that working well from that standpoint. So depending on what council wanted to do, we could do that striping work in conjunction with other work or separately as a separate item. And unfortunately, our traffic engineering manager that was really looking into that, wife had emergency surgery yesterday, so he is not in today, but I will attempt to answer any questions that you may have.
So, Mayor, so what we're asking for from the council tonight is direction on whether you would like any of these concepts to be considered as part of your CIP that you'll be voting on in the spring. So we're really looking for that feedback from you at this point. Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from the public?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, colleagues?
Yeah, I had a couple of comments. You know, looking at the reason why this came up is because I believe it was last year we had a very heavy rain, and because this comes down at such a steep grade, if you look at the bigger picture, you can see at the top of the screen, at the top of the rectangle, water was coming down, and it was forcing the water to shoot into the oncoming traffic, and people were driving down the street, and they were hydroplaning going down. It was extremely dangerous because the original storm drain placement is a really poor location. I believe when the road was designed, it probably was looked at it from a linear perspective, not taking into the severe grade of that hill. So the reason why I brought this up was to get that storm drain relocated further up to where the curve is, so where the water comes, it'll catch the water before it ever cuts across the lanes of traffic, which would be much safer for drivers. So for that reason, option one wouldn't really make sense because the purpose isn't necessarily just to widen the bike lane, which is it's a great benefit, but that's not the purpose. The purpose was for safety. So as far as option three, I don't think that's necessary. I think we can accomplish everything we need to with option two. So I would like to make a motion that the council consider implementing option two for the CIP approval, and also to table the discussion on striping of Saddleback Ranch Road, that little triangle, until it comes time to slurry seal. I don't see the necessity in incurring additional expenses if that can be done at no charge at a later date. So that's my motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Discussion?
So just so I'm clear, what we're doing is we're putting this on the CIP. We'll take a vote on the CIP at a later date. Okay, and on both the striping as well as the, okay.
Yeah, but what we're doing tonight is we're telling them in the CIP to come back costing option two, forget about one and three. So that's...
Sure, understood.
I have a question, Your Honor. Tom, where would they relocate the catch basin in option number two? How far up? Which way would it go, up the hill or down the hill or into the intersection?
It'd go up the hill really at the beginning of the bulb out where it starts to curve, capture the water there along the existing gutter.
Thank you.
The amount that we added is $150,000, approximately. Is that a standalone project, or do you think it'd be cheaper when it comes back and we do the project there?
It would definitely be cheaper when we come back, when we've got a firm up there. It's tough to get firms to do just a little bit of work, and it's a lot of traffic control and things of that nature for just a little bit of concrete work up there.
I actually failed to meet with Mayor Pro Tem, to go out there and visit that. I hate voting on anything that I haven't seen, and it's something I feel uncomfortable with because of the fact that I do a lot of cycling, and to move concrete for asphalt for bikers, for us that used to cycle or those that cycle, the guys that are cycling there, that is no problem for them. But the water concern, has there ever been any accident there?
They're not recorded, not that we know of.
So in lieu of we not getting a lot of rain, but when we do, have you witnessed the water coming down, or would it not water come up and over the sidewalk and go down, still down the street? In a high flow rain, would the water just be gravitating downstream anyways? So when it hits, it would go up and over the sidewalk and down through the sidewalk. And so obviously, maybe if someone is walking, they're walking through a little bit more water on the sidewalk. But as
Yeah, the water definitely gets redirected along the gutter out there. We had when we first built it,
and the drain does collect the basin does collect the downflow that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then we have a motion and a second, and it's to get the costs on option 2 and also to defer the striping until the subsidy.
Yeah, to defer the striping discussion until you're doing the pavement project up in Portola in 2020.
Do you want those separate, or we can just go together? Okay, please vote.
That motion carries with Councilmember Boyd's opposed.
All right. Madam Clerk?
Agenda item 10, Lake Forest Community Foundation, submitted by Director of Community Services.
Mayor and members of the council, we have a staff report from our Community Services Director, Scott Wasserman.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Mr. Mayor, members of council, this item pertains to the potential creation of the Lake Forest Community Foundation. I have a very brief presentation, then I'll open it up for discussion and questions. There we go. Okay. So this is not the first time we've discussed the foundation. We discussed the foundation, or the City Council rather, discussed the foundation in 2006. They actually created the Lake Forest Foundation, and it didn't really go anywhere because at that time there wasn't much interest from the community in serving on the board of directors. So it went inactive. In 2014, the City Council considered reactivating the foundation, and after some discussion, some concerns that they had, they moved on and they opted not to do so. This item was discussed by the current City Council at the meeting of November 6, 2018, and the City Council discussed options. There we go. Options for the Lake Forest Community Foundation, and took the following action: directed staff to convene a meeting of local nonprofit representatives and established a City Council subcommittee to evaluate the city's options. And in directing staff to convene a meeting of local nonprofit representatives, the question that we were to pose to the nonprofits was, what kind of support do you need? How could the Lake Forest Community Foundation potentially support your nonprofit activities in the city of Lake Forest? City staff met with approximately 15 nonprofit organizations. We invited about 277, about 15 showed up. We received email comments from a few more. And generally we asked them, what could the city do to support your activities? And these are some of the answers that we got. A lot of it had to do with promoting their services, perhaps in a nonprofit directory on the city's website, publication of their services through city media, providing training opportunities or technical and professional support, use of city facilities, networking opportunities, participation in city events, assistance recruiting volunteers, advertising and marketing assistance. They would be open, of course, to monetary support if the city decided to provide that, although that was not their primary concern. And assistance with grant writing or auditing or sharing resources. And of those items, there are several that the city could provide now if the city council directed us to do so, and these are included in the slide behind me. We could start an online directory. We have publication opportunities in the city's monthly e-newsletter. We can provide training opportunities through business seminars and also with our partners SCORE, SBA, and CharityNet. Could also provide technical and professional support through the same resources. Use of city facilities. The City Council already approved a rental facility policy that allows Lake Forest-based nonprofits to rent rooms, actually use rooms for free. To provide opportunities for networking, they could be invited to business mixers, participation in city events. We could provide booths at city events, and volunteer recruitment. In the future, once we have the new Civic Center and the Senior Center, I know that one of our tasks that we're committing to is to expand volunteer opportunities for the senior population, so that might be a good nexus about this time next year. After the meeting, staff met with the City Council Subcommittee, and we discussed all these items. We talked about the level of service that we could currently provide, and the subcommittee feels that a community foundation would provide a higher level of service. So they expressed a desire to create a foundation that would support local nonprofit organizations. The subcommittee expressed a preference for a community-led governance structure as opposed to something that would be led by the city. And in the community-led governance structure, it's really a volunteer board of directors taken from the city's residents that are really responsible for all of the operational, legal, and financial maintenance of the organization. Excuse me. Just making sure everyone's awake here. Additional considerations, we did determine with the assistance of the city attorney that the current mission statement of the inactive Lake Forest Community Foundation, it is broad enough to capture the subcommittee's vision of an organization that provides support to nonprofit organizations. We would need to amend the bylaws to reflect a community-led governance structure, and a board of directors would need to be established to formally approve the amended bylaws. And to that end, the next step, the City Council wishes to establish a community foundation. The City Council would direct staff to return to the City Council with a process for selecting the first board of directors for the foundation for the City Council's review and approval, and also to work with the City Attorney's Office to revise the foundation's existing bylaws to reflect a community-led governance structure. And with that, I'll turn it over to any questions that the City Council might have.
Do we have any comments from the public?
We do, Your Honor. Mark Murphy, followed by Martin Acosta.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'd like to encourage the City Council to not vote on this item this evening. We have a new City Council coming in, and this is a pretty big task if it's going to be undertaken. That's if it's going to be undertaken. But in lieu of that, I would encourage the Council to vote no on this for several reasons, not because the goals aren't admirable, but because so many of the bullet points listed in this presentation showed that the city already has the resources to do this. I've been on several boards myself for nonprofit organizations, and they are very hard to maintain. It's very hard to get people to serve on boards. It's very hard to find people to serve on boards. It's very hard to maintain that structure. And based on all the items that the city already said that could be offered, right, that the city existingly can already provide, there's just absolutely no reason to add this additional structure, this additional cost, and this burden on a board of directors to try to raise money, fund itself, and continue to exist simply to provide the itemized list that we heard the city could already do right now. So I'm not quite sure how the subcommittee concluded that this vehicle was going to really be that good of a structure, especially, again, when the city said that it could accomplish so much of it. I'd flip the question, and that is, what is it that you feel that this structure can do that the city can't? What is it that's so vital? So that's something to really, really consider. Little League has a hard time finding people for boards. High school boards have a hard time finding people for boards. It's not an easy task. So I don't see this as something that's really going to be that beneficial and that successful. I'd really encourage you to vote no, but mostly encourage you to move this to the next council if you don't vote no on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Martin Acosta?
Good evening, City Council members. I'm Martin Acosta. I'm a member of Tongue Tamers Club, a member of Toastmasters International, a non-profit organization whose mission is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Guests are always welcome to our meetings, and no appointment is necessary. It is our goal to create a warm and friendly environment where all can learn. Guests are invited to simply observe or participate in the meetings. We are growing. We have over 26 members. We have been a President Distinguished Club for over 8 years. And tonight, I'm here to seek for your help to allow us to use one of your rooms for our weekly meetings. We meet on Thursday nights from 7 to 8:30 p.m. We are currently meeting at the Farmers and Merchant Bank in Laguna Hills at the conference room. However, our deadline to meet at this location is coming to an end next week. So, with your help, you will be able to provide us, for us to continue to providing these free services to our Lake Forest community. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you give your contact information to Scott Wasserman?
He has it.
Oh, did we have it already? Okay, and you'll get... Oh. Okay, going to do that now. How about that for fast action? Terrific. Thank you very much. And thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you.
Nothing further from the public, Your Honor.
Anyone from Facebook?
No, sir.
Okay. Colleagues?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the time. I similarly wrote down a question of what can we not do without the foundation? So I see all the things that we're currently able to do without the foundation. Is there anything other than providing monetary support that we can't currently do?
There's one other item, which would be the city. There are, from time to time, there are some grant opportunities available for which the city may not be eligible to apply. It has to go to a nonprofit organization. And if we had a community foundation, we could potentially work with the foundation in a partnership to accept funding.
Okay, understood. And I think that got brought up at the last meeting when we were talking about, it was like a fire protection grant or something like that. We found a workaround anyway, right? So it might be a little bit more difficult, but it seems like even that might be. So I kind of have the same questions. I'm looking at, I'm a little concerned about the legal liability and the financial liability. So maybe the city attorney can address that a little bit more for me. My questions more specifically are, if we create the foundation, we put a board in place initially, and then the board itself appoints future board members. That's my understanding of how the structure would be. Is that correct?
It just depends on how the council structures the foundation, but that's how it's been addressed so far.
Laid out. Okay. If the board decides to do something that ends up being illegal, and the foundation was formed by the city, I understand their response. I mean, we're giving them responsibility for legal aspects of all this, but couldn't we still be sued? I mean, we're the big fish, right? It's no longer a small little foundation with $10,000. It's a city with a tens of millions of dollars annual budget. So maybe you can explain that to me a little bit.
Mr. Mayor, Council, certainly much will depend on the bylaws and what those bylaws say, the manner in which the foundation is created and is run in an ongoing nature. That said, we are the deep pocket. And regardless of how the foundation is created and organized and run, if it's created by the city, there is always that possibility of liability. Certainly with proximity and time comes greater liability. The farther out we go in time from the creation, I think the less that is a possibility, but if there's any connection, we will always be implicated to some degree in a lawsuit. Whether we are truly liable is a different question. But would we be sued? Yes, I've seen that happen because we're the deep pocket.
And I see the value in this being that it's formed by the city. I see the board of directors constantly using that as the entree into fundraising, into whatever they might do. So they're going to invoke the name of the city on a regular basis, but other than, again, we can form this any way we want, but just kind of how it's been laid out in the staff report is that there'd be a board of directors that we'd appoint, and then if it's more community-led and we have a hands-off approach to all of it, then they are appointing subsequent board members. And, I don't want it to be city-driven, absolutely, but if it's not, then I'm concerned about the financial malfeasance, right? Because we're not there watching over how the dollars are being spent, things like that, because we have a hands-off approach, right? We don't have a city staff member that's at board meetings and things like that. As we do, then it becomes more city-led, and we become more responsible for a lot of those different aspects. So, those are my concerns. Again, I've said it a number of times. I mean, I think that it's very laudable what we're trying to do. We want to encourage nonprofits to flourish in town, and I think that all five of us can agree about that. It's just what's the appropriate structure to make that happen. I know that each one of us support nonprofits in various ways with our time or our finances, and we should continue to do that no matter what. I'm just still kind of, I don't really understand what we're missing other than using city funds to distribute, which it seems like most of the nonprofits that was their main interest, right? Oh, the city's going to be able to give us some money? Okay, we want to show up, and how much can we get?
You'd be surprised it actually wasn't the case. It was really surprising.
Okay. I've heard something different from staff, so I don't know.
Oh.
But that was the response
I didn't mean to interrupt.
So, yeah. So that might not have been their ongoing questions once they understood there is no money, or at least nothing's been allocated at this point. But that was my understanding. So again, I'm still trying to figure out, okay, what's the impetus for this? What are we missing that we can't already provide? And maybe it's just that there's a lot of things that we can provide. We're just not advertising to nonprofits, and that's what we need to do, is just let them know what services we can provide, what the Chamber of Commerce might be able to do to help, what local businesses in town, such as attorneys and accountants, might want to do to help nonprofits make networking relationships here in town. So is it just connecting people, or is it establishing a foundation? And I'm just not sold on the foundation yet, so maybe you can help me, help sell it to me.
I think listening to Mr. Murphy and listening to you, I'm a little worried myself, and but I think there's a workaround, and that would be if we said to these agencies, the city's looking forward to working with a community foundation, but you have to, you set it up, just like the Chamber of Commerce sets it up, and then they come to us and they say, well, we'd like to have this program, and would you like it? And we say yes, and we'll contribute to it, et cetera. So we could get around the legal liabilities by putting the onus back on the nonprofits to say, we want to do this, we're looking forward to doing this, to coordinating it, and we would look favorably on your creation of this, and then bring it to us. So I think that distances us from the problems, just as it does with the Chamber of Commerce. Makes it a completely independent organization, but one that we're linked to in the same way that we're linked to the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I'd had my time, so but just I I think that that's a great idea. I mean, using the Chamber of Commerce model where it establishes itself, and yet it can provide some services to the city, right? It helps us out with different events and things like that. So if we were going to hold a nonprofit event, maybe that foundation could actually, if it had volunteers, could help staff it. So using that same model, I think that would be great. And then we're not establishing a foundation ourselves. It's something that's being driven by the community, but there's opportunities for connections. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mr. Mayor, I also heard from residents outside of the meeting that expressed concern about the city's involvement in, doing the actual creation and having the hands-on day-to-day operations. Of course, that would never be our intent, but even if we were to have it established, as the city attorney said, eventually we could be sued just for having a hand in it. But if we were to go around it in that manner as the Chamber of Commerce has formed and was created, and we could become a partnership, it would definitely reduce our liability and, let it take off and do what it's intended to do without, I think the less involvement the council has in the foundation, the better off it's going to be, because it becomes more organic, and now you're not stuck with bureaucracy and everything else. So I agree with you. I think it's a great program. It's a great idea. We just have to find a way to do it to really get true citizen participation and not city government involvement.
So we'd be looking at you to come back to us, well, not to us, but to the next council with this is the kind of like an RFP, or this is what the city's looking to partner, and then dispersing that to the nonprofits, and then finding out if there's any action. It is hard, as Mr. Murphy said. It is hard operating these things, and yet we do, and we probably have 15 or 20 very active nonprofit groups in the city who manage to survive. But I like the idea of putting the onus back on them and saying, yeah, we want to support that, we want to do what we can to help you, but first come to us. And then, so do you have enough of an idea of what we're looking for?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Wasserman, of the Lake Forest not-for-profits, how many are actually registered for Lake Forest?
277.
277. Of that 277, how many, 15 actually came to the meeting and 3 emailed in?
Correct.
Just for the fact that I, too, have been involved with not-for-profits, and I give to many of the not-for-profits in the city, Relay for Life, Pet Adoption Center, I'm a member of Kiwanis and the Historical Association, but the fact that none of them have shown up as advocates for this kind of shows the lack of maybe interest in this being a city event or city organization. And of the things that are on the request or the possible use of facility, that's already available for. So, Martin, the use of the facility can be adequately used for Toastmasters. Just make that request to Scott, you?
Sure.
To Scott Wasserman, and he'll get that going. But, I too want our not-for-profits to prosper and be in health. But it takes participation of the citizens to make it happen. And I don't think the involvement of the city is going to make or break it. So I think the city's function is our roads, our parks, our safety, our fire. I'm not real sold on having a city not-for-profit Lake Forest Community Foundation, just for the fact I think that we can do most of everything that it is. We have a website, we have a Facebook, and I think that we can tie that some way into our city Facebook, our city website. We just got to work ways around that, but I just not a big thing of adding more work to our staff. We're a city that is officially run with a lean staff, and I don't want to bring more staff members on or have our staff redirected in other areas. And so I'm not a huge fan and sold that we add much more than what we already could do without having the liability of having a community foundation.
Yeah, I think you missed the last 5 minutes. We're talking about something else.
So, Mr. Mayor, I think what I'm hearing is that the council's interested in engaging the nonprofits to see if anyone is interested in putting together a community foundation that in the future the city could contract with to put on an event to support our nonprofits. So if that's the case, we could make that a motion from the mayor, and if you would vote to give us that direction, we could go off and do that.
What she said.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
Okay, more discussion items. Normally, we break around 8 o'clock. You think we can do this by 8 o'clock? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Agenda item 11, updates to the purchasing and contracting guidelines submitted by city manager.
Mayor and members of the council, we have a very brief presentation from our Assistant City Manager, Keith Neves.
Mayor, members of the City Council, a few updates to the purchasing guidelines and purchasing and contracting guidelines. The first one, let me get a controller. The first item is an item that you asked us to bring back with some research information, and that was a local business preference policy. The second one is state statute has changed for January 1st, 2019 for bidding for public projects, and also that would ask you to increase the city manager's signing authority for public projects. So on the local business preference policy, you asked us to do some research for fiscal year 2017, 2018, and bring back contracts that would be affected by the local business preference policy we brought to you, I think, last meeting or the meeting before. As you see, there was only 3 contracts that would have met that policy, and none of them would have had any impact. We would have not, picked any other vendor under that policy. And that policy, we had the 5% limit on that, too. We used the 5% limit, the highest limit, to see if it would affect any of them. No impact on any vendor selection would have happened in fiscal year 17-18. So what we're asking you tonight is, do you still want a local business preference policy discussion or policy? Do you want us to implement a local business preference policy? You would need to do that, you would need to pick a percentage, 1 to 5%, and then you would need to tell us if you wanted a cap on the amount of the preference, if any. So and then the second item is bidding for public projects under AB 2249 that will go into effect on January 1st, 2019. Increases the threshold for bidding on public projects. This was adopted by the state in August 2018, effective January 1st, 2019, like I said. This is a common increase that we bring back to you every couple of years when the state increases this. So on the open market, currently our limit in our purchasing guidelines is $45,000. The proposed limit that the state's going to is $60,000. The informal is $175,000. That would go to $200,000. Staff is asking you to increase this per the AB 2249. And that would also, council would need to propose an increase in the city manager signing authority to meet these new thresholds. So I will turn it back over to the city council for discussion on the local business preference.
Public comment?
And answer any questions.
No, Your Honor.
Facebook? Council?
I have a question, Your Honor. The formal bid type current limit, it says a proposed limit above $200,000. That's kind of an open-ended, or did I misunderstand what you were saying?
The formal is what would need to go to city council.
I'm sorry?
The formal process would still need to go to city council.
Okay, thank you.
The informal is what stays under the city manager's signing authority.
All right, let's vote on number 2 first, just because that seems like a no-brainer. I'll move the item. We vote.
Just to clarify, this is to adopt the
Yes.
contracting guidelines. Okay.
Yes. The number 2 part.
Okay, that motion carries with Councilmember Voigt abstained.
No, I voted, no, I voted yes. I must have pushed the wrong button.
Okay.
Okay, on item number 1, I'll move a local preference of 5% with no cap. Do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Seems as if it didn't make a difference. Let's go ahead and put it there. And it's in favor of the local businesses. We only spend 2% of our budget. We spend $40 million a year. Only 2% of it we spend here in the city on people and companies in the city.
But the city of Irvine's got 3 times the budget we have, and they have a 2% at up to $2,000. So they have a cap. So do we want to have a cap? I mean, they have 3 times the budget we have. Mission Viejo doesn't include any. Rancho Santa Maria, Laguna Hills has none.
You know, we lead the nation in our Facebook Live. We lead them in, we lead Mission Viejo and Irvine in our crime rate. We lead them in our communications. Why shouldn't we lead them in local preferences? So,
Your Honor, if I might, I still have the same reservation about this I've voiced before, and that is, what's a local business? Is it Home Depot, which is nationwide, but they're located here? Pafino's, we know, is local for sure. Bagels and Brew is local, but others, I mean, Outback Steakhouse is not local. So I have a difficult time in mind what would determine local and what would not be local.
can you help us with that, City Attorney?
That is actually true, because even when we talked about this last time, we get some of our supplies from Staples, and it was Staples Foothill Ranch that we used to get it from, but it was billed back east. And so the billing, it wasn't a local, even though we bought it from our local branch, it wasn't considered local because it was billed for back east.
I noticed that with Ace Hardware, we do it, the one in Lake Forest, but it goes to the Huntington Beach office, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Council, for legal purposes, this definition has to be fairly broad. Subsection A of Section 3.12.170 of the proposed ordinance reads as follows. I just lost it. Give me 1 second here. Local business shall mean the vendor, 1, has fixed facilities with employees located at a business address within city limits. A post office box or non-business residence alone is insufficient. And 2, the vendor has been located within city limits for at least 6 months prior to submitting a bid proposal to the city. And they shall provide supporting information and certify in writing that they meet the above requirements as part of their bid or proposal. That's the definition. And that is fairly standard across local preference ordinances.
Okay, you know, when we did the Orange County Register Awards of Excellence, same thing. Some of those are chains, but we honored the chain that was here, and some of them were dedicated, like Jewelry Box was dedicated here, but the Freedom Village was here, but Home Depot was a general chain, but we still honored the chain. So that definition, I'm okay with that.
Okay, what would be the largest contract that we've had that would fall under this? Just so that we could, because we're talking a lot about the, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but we've talked a little bit about the cap, so I want to try to understand, like, what would the difference be? Would someone be motivated if we passed this to open an office with a singular employee to meet the definition in the contract, and would it make sense for them?
Yes, probably the printing contracts, which are anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000.
Great.
And that's it.
So $50,000, we're talking about a $2,500 difference there. So, I mean, the cap part doesn't seem to matter. Most of our major expenditures are on the public works side, which are... we have
And those
to deal
are
with
professional
the-
contracts,
yeah,
which are
exactly.
eliminated from this.
Right, okay. So,
Yeah, it was the printing
you know,
issue that
if
I
that
had.
kind of helps put it in perspective, I mean, it's cap or no cap. I mean, we could put a cap at $5,000 and we'd never exceed it. We could do no cap at all, and it looks like the highest one would be $2,500. So if that's the only drawback, you know, I'm still of the same opinion that we talked about previously. I don't think I have support, so, you know, but I just think we should go with the lowest responsible bidder, just like we do with public work contracts. We should just do that across the board all the time, right? Lowest responsible bidder. But, you know, short of that, you know, I'm not going to oppose this, so.
The one thing that I do like about it is that if we do have a guideline for, you know, local preference, it might encourage local businesses to apply, you know, to do services for the city that may not have normally done it just because they're given a preference. So it may encourage something that, you know, we're really trying to achieve. The truth is, we haven't really seen it yet, you know, that there would be a business that would qualify for it, but I do like the idea that maybe it would evoke some more involvement from the community to try to do business with the city.
Yeah, in fact, that's my motivation as well. All right, then, 5%, no cap. There's a motion, there's a second, let's vote.
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
It's a 5% preference with no cap.
That motion carries with council members Cagley and Voight opposed.
Okay, thank you. That includes our discussion items. This is now, we normally take...
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
If I could, I received a note from the audience regarding the cake that's sitting next to you. So the person that brought that cake for you wanted you to know that she intended that it be shared with the audience. But
Okay.
it's for you in honor of you being the mayor.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you want, all right. And when did you, whatever you want, see your cake. When did you want to give it out? Okay, during intermission, which we're about to take. And she probably got hungry and she said, he's going to take the cake home. Damn him, I want a piece. All right, it's red velvet, so hey, you know, I was going to take the whole thing home, but you caught me. All right, we normally take a 10-minute break, and so let's come back at 8:18 for some red velvet cake, courtesy of Rose Tingle.
That's okay? Okay. For both of them? Okay. Okay.
Didn't do the things. Jennifer.
Yes, sir.
Can we get somebody to do this? Please be seated, get your piece of cake, and have a seat. You got velveted, huh? All right, we now move on to the ceremonial items for the night, and we're going to move item 16 forward. And City Clerk, could you read item 16, which is now number 12?
Agenda item 16, resolution certifying the November 6, 2018 election submitted by acting city clerk. Mayor and council members, the Orange County Registrar of Voters has provided the certification of the canvass of votes for the November 6 election. The draft resolution attached acknowledges those facts, and adoption of the resolution is at the discretion of the council. Staff remains available if you have questions.
We have a motion.
Move results.
Second.
Please vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Item number 12 is a resolution. Oh, did you want to read that?
Agenda item 12, resolution recognizing outgoing council member Colonel, retired Tom Cagley, submitted by acting city clerk.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Please vote. You can vote too.
That motion carries unanimously.
Item 13.
Mr. Mayor, we have a presentation for Councilman Cagley, if you wanted to join me down at the podium.
Oh, okay. Do you want to do that before or after the comment?
Typically, we do it before.
Okay. It's very difficult to do the comments from here. We'll be here all night if we read this resolution. Suffice it to say what we all know is Tom stepped up at a bad time in the city's history, and he came here and under very difficult situations, participated fully as a council member, and gave us his time, his wisdom, and his energies, and we're a lot better off for his contributions this year, and all the things which he would not have been possible without him. The whole city owes you a debt of gratitude for your contribution. Did you want to speak?
Agenda item 13, comments by outgoing council member Colonel, retired Tom Cagley, submitted by acting city clerk.
Thank you very much. For those of you who stay around these city council meetings till the bitter end, you know that we get 5 minutes each city council meeting, which means I had 120 minutes this year, but I won't use 31. So I've got 89 to catch up with. That's the joke for the night. First, I want to thank the supporters and the voters who supported me and voted for me last year, or last January. Gosh, it's not even been a year ago. January 2nd. I appreciate being selected to serve on this council. It was a great honor on my part. I understand I was one of the few people there got more than 50% of the vote when there have been 3 or more candidates for the same position. And I may have been the last person elected on a citywide ballot because of the way that with the districting we're going to now. When I sought this position, I did not mean for it to be a one-year term, but circumstances beyond my control dictated otherwise. I want to thank the city staff for being patient with me and giving me their time to help me through the myriad of city department and work. As an insight, I would say that the Leadership Academy, often encouraged by Dr. Gardner, is one people interested in serving the city should attend. I did not because, as a retired senior officer with several military commands, I did not think the Leadership Academy would taught me anything. I was wrong. I would encourage you renaming the Leadership Academy as something that's not about leadership, but an understanding of the workings of the city government and how all these moving parts mesh together. Perhaps give you a title, Lake Forest Civics 101. I want to thank my colleagues on the dais. They have been generous in providing support to me through what has been a trying year. What I've been very pleased about has been the way we have worked together, each having our views and our own goals, yet being very functional and accomplishing much during this year. One of the most disappointing things this past election, although it's been addressed already in public comments, to me was being accused, the council being accused of being dysfunctional. I'm not really certain where that came from. When I was chairman of the city committee on the Orange County Grand Jury several years ago, I visited over 20 cities in Orange County of the 34. Believe me, this city council this year has been one of the most functional ones probably in the county. And it just disappoints me that we were accused of being dysfunctional. I'm not sure what they were looking for a functional city council. Lake Forest now is in its 27th year. It has grown from a small village to a major city. It has gone through the growing pains of expanding and choosing which paths to follow. We have a very proactive city manager, and as demonstrated this past year, a very proactive council and a very proactive mayor and mayor pro tem. As you probably know or may not know, when candidates have run for office, they have a separate campaign checking account to keep from mingling personal funds with campaign funds. At least they're smart, they do. I was closing my campaign account out a few weeks ago at the Wells Fargo Bank, and the gentleman helping me with that asked what I had accomplished in my year on the council. With an almost nearly straight face, I told him that when I was elected to city council, the city was awash in red ink, but I was leaving it debt-free. We both laughed as I told him that there were a lot of players that made that happen. I was on the team. In fact, indeed, there is a lot of players. Former council member, now new council member Tedimer, Mr. David Bass, all the people serving this council before in the past have contributed to making the city get to where it is now. We're no longer a country village. We're a major city. Personally, what I've accomplished this year, when I ran for office in 2014 and again for this time, I wanted to create a traffic and parking committee. That has been done. I trust this will continue to be a vital force in the years to come. Heaven knows the city needs it. Jim Reichert has done a marvelous job in getting us a committee proactive and not just being an advisory group. It's been my privilege to work with colleagues on establishing a new ethics policy for the city. We have also done the preliminary planning for erecting banners honoring military veterans with a connection to Lake Forest. Looking forward to that coming to fruition sometime in late 2019. As we discussed earlier this evening, it's still in embryonic state, and to be decided what to do about the community foundation. There are more than 200 volunteer organizations in the city that have need on occasion for organizational development, grant writing, and similar functions. This has come out a couple of times at council meetings. Way back in the spring, I don't remember who was, some lady was here looking for somebody to help them get organized. They don't want money. They just want help getting pointed in the right direction, the city's map, or a map to get there. The Mayor Pro Tem and I both campaigned for this in 2014, 2016. As I said, it's still very embryonic and may never come to pass, but if it does, it'll be of value to the city. It does exist in other cities also. Although as a minor player, I take a lot of pride in the recently dedicated Veterans Park. If you have not visited it yet, you should. It was a badly needed renovation. Also showed that corner of the city that while we tend to look at new developments, we must not forget the core of the city. Mr. Wheeler pointed this out to me when I toured the park with him before it was finished, and Mr. Scott, our voice, has told me that during the dedications, people approached him also. This park is beautiful. It has to improve the value of the lands immediately around it, and we just need to keep focusing on that part of the city. I'm really concerned about that. I'm exposed to it more because of Nancy being where she is, but there's an awful lot of stuff along that El Toro corridor that is less than desirable. I mentioned this the last time about the housing over there on the other side of Rockfield, and while there are other issues we just need to be concerned about. And I hope that the council and my colleagues and the future council keep their eye on this area. Because we are going to single-member districts, there will be a district representative from that district on this dais within a year or two, and that should help a little bit more bring the focus where it belongs. finally, an accomplishment, I was appointed to the Orange County Library Committee. Well, this is a very low-key committee. It does do important work in allocating resources. One of my biggest disappointments, however, is the night I was appointed to the committee, I gave reading assignments to my colleagues, none of which have been completed, no reports have been turned in. I don't know what to do about it. I have been told I'm the only member of the City Council that has ever served in the military. In that regard, it has been my pleasure to represent the city at a number of events that recognize the military, from the Memorial Day celebration to the Veterans Day to the park, the Heroes Park, where we put the ball field in honor of one of our fallen military people from this city. A thing that on social media it said that I had not bored you all with war stories. I'm not going to start tonight, I promise you. But one thing you learn in the military is that, as I said, what I'm leaving behind is going forward in other ways. The traffic committee, just as Luke had sorted before, have left things behind that other people built on. That is the military way, because we don't stand one assignment more than 3 years as a rule there. And that's the way it should be. Not should be, but that's what's beneficial to us in looking forward. What this council has done will not end with my leaving or Dr. Gardner's leaving, because what we've started will continue working into the next council and councils that follow that. General MacArthur, in his farewell address to West Point, said that old soldiers never die, they just fade away. I'm not certain how much fading away I will do, as the immediate future is still to be determined. Another saying for old soldiers is that we get a block of wood, a knife, and a rocking chair in a town square and go carve and whittle things and tell little boys and girls war stories, some of which may be true. So I'm ready to do that. I've already been asked to speak at a gathering of World War II B-17 fighter crew members in January in Chino, and I'm looking forward to doing that very much. For a moment, as I said, I have my carving knife and block of wood. I now just need to find that rocking chair. To all of you and yours, I wish you the most happiest of holidays and a healthy and happy New Year. Again, thank you for entrusting the city to me for my portion of it for a year. Thank you.
Brings us to item
15. Yes, Your Honor. Resolution recognizing outgoing council member and 2018 mayor, Dr. Jim Gardner, submitted by Acting City Clerk.
Mayor and members of the council, we have a short presentation by Mayor Pro Tem Leah Basil.
Oh, you tricked me, huh? I didn't know that.
Okay, so I'm supposed to hold this. This has a whole bunch of words that I really don't think I want to read either, but I'll just kind of give it in a nutshell. Serving with Mayor Gardner has really been a pleasure. You know, whereas in years past, you know, I've been pro tem for 2 years, so I think I'm a veteran pro temer. I've never found this kind of participation. You know, it really does feel like a team when he calls and we bounce ideas off each other, and our ideas have grown, and we've done some fantastic things. And I like to think that the council is supposed to be that way, that we're supposed to, you know, feed off our ideas and help each other grow and learn and evolve as kind of iron sharpens iron. And that's really happened this year, and I've seen Mayor Gardner grow a tremendous amount this year as well. And it's nice to know that I've had some sort of positive influence in him, and I wish you the best. I'm sore to see you go because you've really contributed so much to the city. I value you as a person and a friend, and I wish you the very best, and congratulations. Enjoy your retirement.
Your Honor, prior to the vote on this item, we did receive a Facebook comment during Councilman Cagley's, or for the item, Councilman Cagley's comment item. If you would like to take that public comment before we vote on this resolution.
Sure.
Comment for council, Heiko Peschel. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilor, city staff, and fellow residents. First, my thanks to Dr. Gardner for his dedication, and I sincerely hope that you keep up your good work supporting our pets. They need all the help they can get. Second, my thanks to Colonel Cagley for his service to our country and our city. I would have liked to congratulate the new and returning council members. Welcome back, Scott and Mark, and welcome to our newest councilperson, Nikki. Let's remove acting from our city clerk's title. We also have Sherry Anderson. Dr. Gardner, thank you so much for your support of our city, residents, and pets. It is thanks to you that we have an adoption center in Lake Forest, which has been helping to save lives of our Lake Forest lost and abandoned pets. I'm so sorry to lose you on council. You are the best.
Okay, thank you. Are we voting? Okay.
I need a motion.
Do we need a motion?
I'll move the item.
Second.
That motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item number...
Agenda item 16, comments by outgoing city council member and 2018 mayor, Dr. Jim Gardner, submitted by acting city clerk.
Can you cue up the slideshow? So in preparing my remarks, I went back and I looked at the remarks of the previous people who left the council, and they're all different. They range from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, and they go all over the place. It's quite an interesting thing to do. Can we get that back to the start and put it on the slideshow? Yeah. Now, bear in mind, so I've been working on this for the past 2 weeks, and the latest copy, I saved it to a disk, and then I took the wrong disk. So I gave him an earlier edition. So the thing we're going to see tonight is not the final edition. Good enough for government work, but it's not what I had in mind. I'll subsequently provide you the real last copy. It's close enough. Anyhow, this is my report on how I spent the last 4 years. Kind of when you were in school and they said, what did you do in the summer? This is how I spent the last 4 years. State of the city, we talked about this the last time. So I'll run through that really quickly, and we did that last week, what the state of the city is. Its accomplishments. Number one, keeping us safe. And again, thanks to Lieutenant Valentine, we have the lowest crime rate in our city's history. Not only do we have the lowest crime rate in our city's history, but our city used to be amongst the highest crime rate in Orange County. Now we're amongst the lowest crime rate in Orange County. So not only the numbers, but comparatively, we've done a great job, and that's thanks to Lieutenant Valentine and the police force. We kept that 400-bed homeless shelter out of the city. That was a major challenge. You have no idea what that would have meant to the city. And we did that, and you can thank Leah and Deborah Rose for their hard work keeping the homeless shelter out of the outskirts of the city. Once again, the police launched their Don't Make It Easy program, which we saw a significant decrease in crimes of opportunity. We added the parking enforcement officer, and already tickets and towing have nearly doubled. We added an advanced child safety class, and that was really important. We also added the Internet Predator class, and I'm hoping, Lieutenant, we do that again with the Internet Predator, because that's different, and that was aimed more at the parents, and I thought that was a very good addition as well. We got I don't know if Michelle is here, or is Larissa here? Larissa and Michelle helped get the First Responders Grab and Go. That's a program in which volunteers provide treats for the police. It's been expanded to other cities, and we're about to expand it to the fire as well. So that's been a really a big achievement this year, thanks to Michelle and Larissa. Those are all the police events that we attended. That's my granddaughter there in the fire hat. We upgraded Heroes Park and dedicated that to the fallen soldiers and the fallen police. We've responded to the homeless challenge. Honestly, we are probably the best city in South Orange County to do that, and Carlo and Deborah worked on that, and they just did a terrific job. And it kept us out of a costly lawsuit, and we are providing excellent care for our homeless population. And our homeless population here in Lake Forest is minuscule compared to the other cities because of that. You know, we did a census the other day, and we have no homeless families in the city. We've been putting CDBG monies into preventing homelessness in families. When we did the census 3 or 4 months ago, so not a single homeless family. So we've done a terrific job handling the homeless challenge. Protecting the neighborhoods, thanks to our city attorney. We asked them to give us an ordinance which would survive the millions of dollars of challenges that confronted other cities so that we could deal with sober living homes, Airbnb, etc. And they gave us an ordinance that hasn't even been tested, and we've got dozens of homes have left as a result of that powerful ordinance, keeping our neighborhoods safe. Deborah and I worked with Saddleback Valley with the superintendent to be sure that there was nothing more the city could do in terms of providing help in case the active shooter, which we all hope never happens, but we did that. We're creating the online neighborhood watch, and that's got great potential. And that's number one, safety. Number two, our finances. Of course, you know we're debt-free. We saved $1,000 in interest payments. The slide that's in the final draft that isn't up there is $1 million, not $1,000. We saved $9 million in paying off the pension liabilities. We did that in 2015 and again in 2017. It's $10 million just there that we saved the city in interest payments by some good fiscal management, and we owe a debt of thanks to Keith for that. The Civic Center is on time and on budget. Have you ever heard of a city project that's on time and on budget? I mean, that's unheard of. And at $72 million, it's millions of dollars we've saved by being able to do that. That's just an incredible achievement. We sold that ugly little piece of property down at by El Toro, and I bugged the city about that for years. We finally sold it, made almost $900,000 as a result of doing that. 4 years ago, Keith and Andrew and I met, and we changed the interest income policies, and we've earned an extra $500,000 in the years since then as a result of changing our interest income policies. Lake Forest, the general plan, we revised that, saved $500,000 on that, and we saved, I'm going to say, I put $2 million. Is it $1 million? Is it $7 million? We said, thanks to Councilman Robinson and Leah Basil, we avoided the lawsuit and saved millions of dollars to the city. And I don't know, thanks to Deborah and to Mal, God knows how much we saved by keeping us out of the federal lawsuits with the homeless, by doing an excellent job. More potential savings. We have a program that the Mayor Pro Tem is working on. Civilian parking enforcement could save us $250,000 a year. Carlo and Deborah have set up a program with Mercy House to do our homeless care, and that's providing more care, possibly at a lower cost. So that's hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're saving in ongoing costs. Not just the one-time costs, but these are ongoing costs. More potential savings. We got that $1 million grant, or we're getting that $1 million grant from CAL FIRE. We're, I think, at least going to save $50,000 per year with the multi-city street sweeping contract that the Mayor Pro Tem is working on, and $50 sounds pretty cheap when you're saving millions, but hey, $50 is $50. Rates and fees. This is an important project. Unfortunately, it's been delayed. The new council will have to deal with that. But our fee schedule is like 10 years old. So we're updating that, and it's difficult to know how much, hundreds of thousands, we will gain in revenue as a result of bringing our fee schedules back up to date. Did safety. Now I'm looking at finances. Now we're looking at communications, helping us communicate. We talked about that, Facebook Live, our pop-up city halls, We talked about those, the mayor minutes. We talked about we talked about all these things when we talked about what a great job the communications people had done for us. Supporting our businesses. We set up the Mayor's Business Council, and that's proving to be extremely valuable. We doubled our ribbon cuttings. This year we doubled our ribbon cuttings. And that's really important. People put their lives and their dreams, and they bring them here to Lake Forest, and we need to support them, double them this year. In the 4 years since I've been on the council, we've doubled the chamber membership, and again, that's really good for the chamber, and that helps the city. We expanded Shop and Dine, and I worked with Carlo on this and his staff, to a month-long event. This year we had our biggest number of attendees and vendors and other vendors, and that was a big success. We, of course, created the Shop and Dine mobile app 2 years ago and continue to upgrade that. We already talked about bringing At Home here. We already talked about the South County Entrepreneur Academy. We talked about the mayor's pitch. And we added 3 new hotels to the city. Those 3 new hotels, as they start showing up, I guess, next year or maybe 2020, will mean dozens of new jobs for the city and $750,000 a year in new revenues. We did the Best of OC recognition for the local businesses. Already talked about Carlo and the updated economic development plan, which is already, we're working on things I honestly can't tell you about that will dramatically change the shape of our businesses around the 5 intersection. And we're trying to be more proactive. Instead of sitting there and waiting for people to come, we're out there trying to bring people to come. It's a completely different approach. And look at that. We passed it tonight. Thank God, otherwise that would have been a pretty stupid-looking sign. Honestly, when I got into office, I had 2 goals. One was to get more things done, but mostly it was to improve the way government works. Because it was more important to me to improve the way government works than to get specific things done. So, number one, we got the career politician thing passed, so nobody can spend more than 8 years anymore, and that was passed. That was difficult to get done, but we got that done. We created, as Tom said, and thanks to Tom and Leah for their support on creating the Traffic and Parking Commission, which twice before never got created now, and Jim Reichert and Sonny and all those people are doing a terrific job. It makes me really proud to see how much they're doing. We mandated written reports, so we've got written reports now from the city attorney every week, gives us updates on what's happening. The city manager, everybody else, quarterly reports. That has really helped a lot in terms of managing how government works. I cannot overemphasize what an asset that has been. We created the HOA Council that Mayor Basil sits on, and that has also proved to be just great. Give and take. We're learning from the HOAs. They're learning from us. This has been a valuable asset. Course registrations. Scott Wasserman over there, they have developed the course registrations now in the past 4 years so that they're 100% online, and they now actually could be done 100% mobile. And we'll see in the coming years how that happens. That's going to make it not only convenient for people, but that's going to save lots of money in terms of staff time by doing that. That was a great job by Scott and his folks. We opened the City Hall 5 days a week. Thanks to Leah Basil, we pushed the city, and the city very graciously, the staff were great. No problems, nothing, they went along with it. And that's 10% more access for people, a major thing. This is the council assignment list tracking that we had the city manager set up. In the past, things would get lost for years. And you say, whatever happened to that? Oh, we forgot about that. We now track everything. And that's been marvelous in terms of keeping us on track and things not getting lost. I don't think we're like more than three months behind on anything. We improved the council meetings. We start at 6:30. We added the pre-show information Jonathan and Scott will work on. Jonathan's off in the greeter. We improved the visual aids. We added the standard break time, and we have the handouts. We created the Mayor's Award for Excellence, which you saw tonight, that Carlo got. How do I get the picture and get it up there so fast? We're updating the general plan. General plan, 25 years old. We're updating that, but we're updating that with a change to it. We asked them not to worry so much about a map, but to worry about a set of principles so that we can meet the changes that are coming faster than we can imagine. So there'll be a new general plan, but hopefully it will be more about questions and dealing with change than a static map on a piece of page. We're creating the community foundation. So improving government, now looking at improving our quality of life. We created the city's first dog park, and we'll have a second dog park up in Portola Hills. Special needs. The special needs program here in the city is honestly the best special needs city, certainly in South Orange County. People come from everywhere to participate in that program. And Scott and his group, and Marilyn is there, you can just see her head, have done a marvelous job in our special needs expansion. Really a model for the rest of the city. We're creating more affordable homes. We've created already more than a dozen. We've got those 55 coming up in Portola Hills, and we're waiting for that National Corps people to come back to us and tell us how we can create even more affordable homes. We got a new county animal shelter, and again, Rose, I guess she took her cake and went home. Oh, there she is. And again, if it weren't for Rose, that couldn't have happened. We approved the Portola Park. That'll not only give us our second dog park, but it'll give us our first pickleball court, city pickleball courts. We approved upgrades to 10 neighborhood parks. We solved hundreds of people's individual problems. We created a volunteer leadership award. We did that back in May to acknowledge the volunteer leaders and how much they contribute to the city. That's John Irish. He got the first award. We call it the Drink. It's named after Myron Drinkwater. Those of you who've been with the city for a while know what a long-time volunteer and how hard Myron Drinkwater worked for the city. It's called the Drink, and it's a glass, like a beer glass, called the Drink. And we created Veterans Park, and hopefully we're going to do a better job maintaining that. We created the Pet Expo. We championed animal welfare. We have the Pet Adoption Center. We have an Animal Welfare Advisory Committee. Dream Rescue does the cat rescue in the city. We exposed the false data that the county was putting out about the euthanasia rates. We assisted reptile rescue coming to the city, and we closed down puppy mills. Those all took a lot of time and a lot of energy. Engaging the public. Personally, I attended over 600 city events in the last 4 years. It's hard to believe. There's all 800 different city events. The Patch, nearly 100 city council previews and reviews and articles about life in Lake Forest. Every so often, the truth be known, there was a political article mixed in there, but most of them, 90% of them, were articles about what's happening in the city and life in the city. We started several Facebook pages with over 1,000 members participating in them. We learned and listened and went around, met with dozens of groups and HOAs to improve their provisions, supporting nonprofits, and we're continuing to support nonprofits. Town hall meetings, office hours, promoting citizen advocacy. And my final act is establishing the Lake Forest CAN. That's Lake Forest Community Action Group, citizen-led organization designed to ensure that the quality of life in Lake Forest is at an optimal level. That's the Facebook and the Gmail. So going back to what I started with, I had two goals: to get things done and to change how government works. I believe the mission is accomplished and far beyond my wildest imagination, and I think anybody else's wildest imagination. Lake Forest today has never been stronger financially with regard to safety, communications, technology, and our business communication. We are at our peak performance, and we need to keep the momentum going. In the 21st century, it's necessary to reinvent ourselves and address the challenges and changes that are coming our way all the time. It's no good to sit back and say, let's stay the course. The course is constantly changing, and we need to be up to those challenges. I wish you all the joy that I've had and the sense of achievement and success that I've had in these 4 years, and I wish you a happy holidays. Thank you and good night. We will now
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I apologize. We did have a public speaker card submitted for this last item.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mark Murphy?
That was a nice overview.
Thank you.
But let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that you didn't mention, some of the uglier underbelly underneath. And it's unfortunate. Because you started off several months after coming to office, immediately organizing with Adam Nick a recall campaign, or at least a strategy. Mr. Cagley was in on those emails. And you had a surprise guest, Mr. Schuman, who reared his ugly head in this election. And Adam Nick was involved in that. Flash forward to the Recall 1 effort, where you also were on those emails. You were also very involved with regard to knowing about them and participating and helping out. Flash forward to the recall itself, you donated $30,000. You actually were going to be the sole donor to that until Adam Nick kicked in non-monetary contributions and several untold, unpaid expenses, which saved you from being the major donor on that. So underneath all this, while you've had a nice appearance here in front of everybody, your writings and what you've been involved with have not been so nice. Hasn't been very good at all. You haven't been transparent with people, and when asked directly, you were actually deceitful. You gave different answers to people about what was going on, and later had to correct yourself when different things were found out. You actually were involved. You actually told a journalist that you barely knew about what, you just kind of knew what was going on with the second recall, only to find out later on you were involved in counting and verifying the votes. You were involved in organizing with, or you were involved within a communication chain, and you were a part of that. Not only that, John Claycomb asked you just days after you were done what you knew, and you said that you were hardly involved, only to find out you were deeply involved. That's the ugly side of it all. And I don't think we should forget that. You were voted out of office by 7%. You're a sitting mayor, and you haven't done any writing to sit and explain why you think you may have lost. Maybe you might want to think about that, some self-reflection, and let us know, because you've been very harsh with other people when they lost. You've been extremely harsh, saying that other people couldn't win things. You lost this election. You ought to think about that. Thank you.
This is the kind of ridiculous comments that you've said before, and I pretty much ignored them in the past. And since you had the bad taste to raise them tonight, I will address them. The complaint about my involvement in the recall was actually submitted to the FPPC, and the FPPC denied the complaint. So, but that being said, you can sit down. You don't get this is not a debate.
No, it's not a debate.
Okay. And I'm proud of the recalls. I believe the recalls were great. They represent citizen advocacy. If it weren't for the recalls, almost all of these achievements that you see up here would not have happened had it not been for the recalls. Laugh all you want, and that's the facts are the facts. So, and the other day, Councilman Robinson and I were talking with the city manager, and he mentioned that he wasn't running again, and the reason he wasn't running again was because he was so embarrassed of the things that he'd done as a politician. And I said, there's nothing I've said or written or done that I'm embarrassed about. Everything I said or did or wrote has always been with the interests of the people involved and the interests of the residents. And everybody knows that. So I make no apologies. Yeah, I understand when you do things, when you achieve things, then you make enemies and people get upset. And that's the option is not to do things, and then people don't get upset with that. So, with that,
I'm sorry, we do have some Facebook comments as well.
Okay.
Stephen Smith, comment to council. Good riddance, Mr. Gardner. You are the only mayor in history of the city who never completed your term because you are abrasive, a liar, and deeply partisan. I hope you move out of the city and live somewhere else. This is why the people voted you out, hopefully for good. Sherry Anderson, council comments. Thank you, Dr. Gardner. You are the best. Steve Coover, comment to council. Thank you, Dr. Gardner, for being the first council member to spend time listening to citizens without brushing them off, taking action to make life better in our city, and opening up government with regular office hours, regular updates, mayor's minutes, etc. You've done a great job.
Okay. With that, we'll take a brief transition, and then the new council will come up.
Started. It's a little, there it is. Okay. We will reconvene our regular city council meeting, and calling back to order. Do we have any comments from the public?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then let's go ahead and begin with our installation and oath of office ceremony.
We have a ceremonial oath for the 3 new council members. So Sheriff-elect Don Barnes is here to conduct that at the podium.
Welcome. What a pleasure to have you here tonight. Thanks for making time for us.
So it's even much more special for me to be here.
And we'll begin with the representative from District 2.
Great. And can we get a microphone for them?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
So if you'd raise your right hand and please repeat after me.
Okay.
I, state your name,
Nikki Motazity,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will
well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we'll have the representative from District 3, Scott Voights.
Congratulations, Scott, on your re-election.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your service to our county.
Scott, if you'd raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me.
I, Scott Voights,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will
bear
true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that
I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion,
and
that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
on the duties of which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Shakes hands again.
And finally, the representative from District 4, Mark Tedmer.
I have some special guests.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Please repeat after me. I
Mark Tedmer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to
to the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
or
purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Will you run away? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, next item, please.
Agenda item 18, comments by incoming council member Nikki Moatazetti, submitted by acting city clerk.
I'll make this short and sweet, since I know you all have been here all night. I'm reading off of my phone, so I apologize. I wanted to thank my family for, first and foremost, actually thank my family for putting up with the long nights, the public intrusion, and my constant requests to help me with something. Next, I want to thank my volunteers. Without them, I would be nothing. Volunteers are the heartbeat of any campaign, and without the beating heart, you can't survive. Without volunteer introductions and invitations to my meet and greets, I don't know what I would have done without you. And finally, the people of Lake Forest. Thank you for voting for someone who is passionate about doing the right thing. I hope to make the residents proud and will always keep you foremost in my decisions. Thank you for getting involved in this election to rid the dishonest motivations of others. I am honored to be your councilwoman.
Agenda item 19, comments by incoming council member Scott Voights, submitted by acting city clerk.
I first want to thank my wife and my daughter for putting up with the minutia that we've gone through these last few years, because there's times where it's not always a friendly atmosphere coming into the city council, but the fact is that duty calls, and I will faithfully perform my duty to the citizens of Lake Forest. And so I want to thank the citizens of Lake Forest, the people of Lake Forest, for once again voting me in as a city councilman serving on this great city. You know, Lake Forest is a great city. You know, we talk about location. Lake Forest is a location that is the top of South County. So I call ourselves the gateway to South Orange County, because we're right where the 405 and 5 come together, the 241 on our eastern border. We've got great access in and out. It's a logical place to do business, but we have the best part of Lake Forest is the people of Lake Forest. And it's when I go to the high schools, or when I go to La Madera or Lake Forest Elementary or Serrano Junior High, or I spend a lot of time at El Toro High School because of my daughter being on the soccer team and the volleyball team and the track team there. I spend a lot of time there, but our youth are such a special thing. But it's the families, it's the family atmosphere. When you talk about Irvine or some of the other cities as you go farther north, Lake Forest is the bedroom community. It's truly enriched by the inhabitants that we have here. The businesses, I've been to almost all the ribbon cutting since I've been elected. I very rarely miss at Lake Forest ribbon cutting, because I believe that our small businesses are the lifeblood of what we are in Lake Forest, and as they prosper, so does the city. So it's important for us to support our local businesses, our local restaurants, and our local facilities, because that's where our young people are going to go work. And I think that the growth that we've had in this city is something that I think has benefited us greatly, because of the fact that we've got so many new people in Lake Forest, and we've grown from the little city of El Toro, the community of El Toro, which I moved into with my family in 1978, where El Toro Road was a 2-lane highway, and Lake Forest Drive ended with a big wooden barricade at Tribuco. There was no Ralph Shopping Center. There was no Stater Brothers Shopping Center. So I've seen Lake Forest grow into what we are today. And I'm truly blessed to serve it, because I truly love it. And people say, Scott, how? I've got family in almost every neighborhood of Lake Forest. I have, my mother lives here. My mother-in-law lives in Lake Forest. My brother and sister-in-law live in Lake Forest. I have 3 of my brothers that live here in Lake Forest. My cousins live here in Lake Forest and graduated from El Toro. I truly have roots in Lake Forest, and that because of that, my commitment will always be to the people of Lake Forest, because my family would have it no other way. Christmas and Thanksgiving would be a nightmare, because they always come to my house. But I can imagine if I ever betrayed the trust of Lake Forest, because I truly want the best for what we are. And I see nothing but good things ahead of us because of what we have, because of prior councils, the foundation that we have with the opportunity study, and the wisdom in growing at a pace that was sensible because of the new growth that we had on our northwest border Baker Ranch, the Shea Homes, and Toll Brothers have brought a new influx of people that are truly a blessing to the businesses and a blessing to the community of Lake Forest. And so I just want to say how privileged I have been to serve, what an honor it is to serve the people of Lake Forest. It's truly something I'm passionate about, and I love, because I love Lake Forest, and I love all of the residents of Lake Forest. Even those that disagree with me, I want the best for all of us. And so I go into this next 4 years, the challenges that are ahead. I know that I can't do it, and so I'm asking God's help, but at the same time accepting the challenge that His work must always be our own. So the effort that I put forth in faith, I have to follow with action. So it's faith and action together. I'm going to serve the people of Lake Forest well, and commitment is always in you, because I am committed to the people of Lake Forest. And I want to say thank you for choosing me once again, allowing me to serve. I'm honored and blessed. And I want to say thank you to the staff. I've been here 8 years now, and we have the finest staff in all of the county. And we are served by a law enforcement department, Orange County Sheriff Department, which is second to none in the nation, where I had the privilege of being the mayor when we opened up the Saddleback substation. And we talk about low crime rate and the ability for us to have patrol cars in the field here in Lake Forest. Well, the Saddleback substation is that avenue. Because of that Saddleback substation, we see more police cruisers, sheriff cruisers in our city than any other South County city, because of the in and out, because they all start in the Saddleback substations where they start their patrol. So we're so extremely blessed. Orange County Fire Authority, which saved my life 22 years ago when I fell off a bridge overpass and broke my back. Orange County Fire Authority was there to pull me out of a ravine that had fallen 22 feet and landed on my head. Doctors gave me no hope of ever remembering anybody again or having a child, but because I believe in the miracle of God and my faith and my family's faith, I have pulled through and become more than I've ever expected to be. Being mayor of this great city, I'm so honored because I grew up here, and my family has allowed me, my wife has put up with all this and allowed me to be that. And, you know, beside every good man, there's a better woman. My wife, Stephanie's been a blessing to me. My daughter, Shaylin, I couldn't be more proud of her, and I'm the bright future Lake Forest has. And so I want to thank you all for coming to this special night where we have a change of the guard, and I see nothing but prosperity and benefit and health to the city of Lake Forest to the next eons. So to all of you, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, our second day of Hanukkah. Thank you so much, and to a healthy and happy, prosperous New Year 2019. God bless you all, and thank you.
Agenda item 20, comments by incoming Councilmember Mark Teddemer.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Let me first thank Sheriff-elect Don Barnes for being here tonight and helping with, I guess I'll say, the oaths of office. Now you expanded from 1 to 3. That's great. I had the honor of working with then Lieutenant Barnes when I was in City Council, and he serves as city's Chief of Police. I admired the way he served this community. I, like many others, knew his future was bright. I'm glad the citizens of Orange County recognized that as well and elected him to be the next sheriff of Orange County. I look forward to working with Sheriff-elect Barnes, Lieutenant Valentine, the Sheriff's Department, and our stars to continue the tradition of keeping this community safe. I sit at this dais tonight because of the encouragement and support of many. Key among them is my wife, Brenda. We've been married for 29 years, and she continues to amaze me. She's been active in the community for many years as a PTA board president and Girl Scout troop leader. She's done a lot for this community. She's done a lot for our family, and she's done a lot for me. Thank you. I also want to recognize my father is here tonight. When our children were younger, I started to get involved in the community. I later came to realize that my involvement was a result of watching my father and what he did for my sisters and I when we were growing up. Thank you. Thank you for being a role model. I'd also like to recognize my daughter, Kylie, and son, Garrett, who are here tonight. Garrett has made a special trip to be here tonight, and I'd like to thank you, Garrett. I know it took a lot to be here. When I was first elected to City Council, Kylie was 10 and Garrett was 7 years old. And I do not believe they really understood what was going on at that time. During this election, both Kylie and Garrett helped with the campaign. I'm glad we had a chance to share this experience and you gained an insight into local campaigning on a very personal level. Thank you both. You guys are inspirations for me. I want to thank those who reached out to me and encouraged me to run. I also want to thank those who helped with our campaign. Your support is greatly appreciated, and I would not be here before you if not for their help, so thank you to those folks. When I first ran for City Council in 2004 and again in 2008, campaigns were certainly more civil. Things have changed. I hope they will change back to a more respectful time when people can run on their qualifications, their experience, and their goals for this community. There is a lot to unpack from this election, but this is not the time or the place. The City Council chamber is not for politics. This is where the people have entrusted us to look after their interests. I will work to fulfill those expectations. Much of the area we know as Lake Forest was planned and constructed before the city was formed. On December 20th, 1991, Lake Forest became a city. Since then, the city and the community have been working together to improve Lake Forest by reshaping it to meet our needs. While much has been done since 1991, I look forward to working with the residents and businesses to help achieve even more through thoughtful planning, education, communication, collaboration, and prudent financial decisions. My hope is that we can be a model of achievement in Orange County and beyond. In conclusion, I look forward to working with the community, city staff, and my council colleagues. My philosophy is that it's not only important what we achieve, it's important how we achieve it. Let's show the community that this council can work together. I will work with anyone that wants to help Lake Forest become a better community. Thank you, Lake Forest, for giving me a chance to serve again. Thank you to my dad, my kids, and my wife. Thank you.
Agenda item 21, selection of mayor and mayor pro tem for the ensuing year, submitted by acting city clerk.
Do we have any public comments?
Yes, ma'am, we do. James Giorgio, followed by Mike Black.
Welcome.
Thank you. Congratulations. My name's Jim Giorgio, and I've been a Lake Forest resident for nearly 20 years. And this is my first time speaking at a city council meeting, first time ever being to a city council meeting. But I really thought I needed to be heard. The results of this past election were clearly a mandate on cleaning up City Hall. We overwhelmingly voted for change in Lake Forest. Any vote in favor of Councilmember Basil to be our next mayor goes directly against all of us who voted for this new city council. Councilmember Basil was aligned with the old guard and campaigned against every one of the newly elected council members. Furthermore, based on public records, her past campaign was majorly financed by former Councilmember Adam Nick. Mr. Nick led one of the most misogynistic and offensive smear campaigns in Lake Forest history. This past election, he was against change. In my opinion, her very close association with Adam Nick does not make her fit to be called mayor of our city, let alone city council member. Change needs to begin tonight. Council members Modazzetti, Tuttimer, and Voights, you were elected on the promise of change. I ask all of you to support your constituents who voted for you and put each of you in this position tonight, in the office you hold today. I ask that you nominate and vote for someone other than Council Member Basil to be our next mayor of the city of Lake Forest. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mike Black, followed by Ken Henderson.
Good
Welcome.
Council members. My name is Mike Black. I've been a resident of Lake Forest for about 15 years now. I'm a former Marine. Well, I guess there's no such thing as a former Marine. I'm a Marine. Vietnam veteran, 69 and 70. And one of the first times I did get up and speak in front of the council was about a year ago. And one of the first things I did was I thanked our law enforcement. They don't get thanked enough. It's a thankless job. I know I was a deputy sheriff myself for years, a long time ago. Yeah, myself, personally, I would consider it an honor to work for somebody like Lieutenant Valentine and definitely our new sheriff. I'm an old man now. I can't do that. But one of the reasons I want to be here tonight is to basically just reiterate what some other people have said here tonight. I came to a lot of council meetings for a while. I got tired of the drama, got tired of the infighting, I got tired of the lies. You know, when Mayor Gardner took over, one of the first things he said that night was, we now have a gang of 5, but that wasn't true. What we had was a new gang of 3. Nobody liked that term anyway, but we had a gang of 3. I'm hoping at some point we can have a gang of 5 and everybody can kind of see eye to eye, and the infighting and the arguing and the name calling and the attempts at censoring council members without the backing of their fellow council members, or at least not all of them. It has been mentioned several times tonight that this is a city of Adam, Nick, and people like Martin Henderson. You know, what they say goes. Too many people, including Leah Basil, as has been stated before, are kind of in his pocket, kind of being led around with a string in her nose. And definitely Jim Gardner was doing that. And then, as it's also been pointed out, when questioned about it or asked about it or confronted with it, he always had an explanation or a lie or an excuse to get out of it. I would like to be able to continue coming back to some of these council meetings and seeing progress being made for the city, for the people of the city. Okay, this is not Adam Nick City. This is not Martin Henderson City. It's nobody's city. It belongs to us, the people. You're here to represent us, and I just hope you'll do that to the best of your ability. I think we need a change. It was also said earlier tonight. We got new members. We got new blood here now. I would like to see the city council start fresh. I'd like to see Mark Kettemer appointed as mayor tonight. I would like to see Nikki Moatazetti as mayor pro tem. It would be a learning experience for her, and I think she would have, as you can tell, she would have our support. You both would have our support. You two people right there need to be sitting right there and right there. So thank you. Appreciate time.
Thank you for your comments. Ken Henderson, followed by Kim Workmeister.
Welcome.
Ken Henderson. I want to thank you, council members, and I especially want to thank Mark and Nikki. Welcome aboard. I've been a Lake Forest resident for 20 years, and I moved here from Los Angeles because I thought this was a wonderful place to live. But I'm against Leah Basil being appointed mayor of the Lake Forest because of the fact that she is bound by Adam Nick, and I've been watching this circus for the last several years now, and I'm fed up with it, and I think we got a great change with the new council members we got in place right now, along with Scott and Dwight Robinson. I think we got maybe on the start of a great council. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Kim Workmeister, followed by Mark Murphy.
Hi, I'm Kim Workmeister. I'm a 40-plus year resident of Lake Forest. I'd like to respectfully express my opinion that the council reconsider the current process for mayor selection. Instead of simply rotating this ceremonial position, I would ask council to consider the recent referendum from voters. The last election was a resounding response from residents that the style of politics and leadership of the last few years is unacceptable and intolerable. residents of Lake Forest want a return to civility and the ability to work together without constant electioneering and smearing of fellow council members. Mark Tedmer has a reputation for council leadership that is dignified, respectful, and civil, along with the ability to work well with fellow council members, regardless of whether or not they agree on issues. He was voted back to council by residents as a result of this reputation. His experience and the voter referendum make him an excellent choice for mayor. So I'd ask the council to consider selecting him during the mayor selection process this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mark Murphy, followed by Greg Black.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I'd like to start off by saying that I think there's some real important decisions this evening. As a lot of people have expressed, the voters have somewhat spoken here. It was a pretty resounding vote. I'd like to bring up some information because I'm not sure if everybody's aware of it. Maybe there's some people who haven't read whether they're releases that they see on the patch or on Facebook or just haven't heard. But there's a couple serious issues I have with Ms. Basile becoming mayor, and I understand that she's interested in the position. First of all, she was involved in a campaign to write a letter against Andrew Hamilton at his employment. That's a serious, serious problem. She was part of a campaign with 3 other people, basically trying to infect his employment just for political reasons. That's a real problem I have ethically. Secondly, her 2016 campaign appeared to be running on a shoestring right before the election. She loaned herself $10,000, but it really wasn't even touched, and it was returned. And then 10 months after the election, well, by the way, that $10,000 was 2.5 weeks before the election that she loaned it, and it went back to her. But 10 months later, we actually learned that Adam Nick was involved to the tune of $20,000. Totally different campaign, 10 months later. Then later on, we also see release of emails over the period before the campaign of heavy involvement and coordination between Ms. Basile and Adam Nick and the anti-Robinson campaign. These weren't just onesie-twosies, hey, how you doing? This is coordinated flyers, this is coordinated events, coordinated getting yard signs out. That is a deep coordinated effort. And I believe that during this last campaign, Ms. Basile even told one resident that Sonny Moper could not have been involved with the CEP PAC because that would have been, for coordinating, would have been highly illegal and would have ensued possible fines and jail time. So I think that there's some serious questions here, serious ethical issues. And I don't think that anybody should nominate her. I think the nomination should stay silent, and if it comes, that there should be no nomination. And it's just something you can't put somebody in a position who's had this kind of serious activity. It's just not a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Greg Black, followed by Donna Snow.
Welcome.
Thank you. By the way, I am no relationship to Mike Black, but I would be proud to be. I come here with just one single thought for tonight, and that is, in lieu of what everyone else has said before for the appointment of the new mayor, I think of the word integrity. And I just want everyone to think about that word. And you look at the concept of Mark Tedmer and Nikki being elected as mayor and pro tem. Just think integrity.
Thank you for your comments.
Donna Snow, followed by Cynthia Cantrill.
Welcome.
Hi, congratulations, all of you. I volunteered for a lot of you, and I'm a concerned neighbor. I was I had a house on Minnetonka by the lake, and I just wanted to say that I agree with all these people that Leah Basil should not be the mayor because of all the things that they said. And I've been to a lot of the council meetings, and I saw what happened, and I don't want that to happen again. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Cynthia Cantrill, followed by Diane Caput.
Good evening. I work in the city. I have the opportunity to be here every day, and I do want to thank the police for keeping an eye on me. I'm the last one to leave in this parking lot at night and walking through, and I know how safe the city is because of them. So thank you very much for that. What I want to say today is that there's been several things that have happened. A lot of chaos, but some of the things that really come to mind here, particularly the letter writing, your participation, Ms. Bazile, with letter writing for previous councilman Andrew Hamilton, and what that did was cause him to lose his job. And I'm not sure what that's about. That is about moral turpitude, in my opinion. As the same way, wasting $500,000 on recalls and sitting next to two of the people that were attempted to be recalled, that you had a hand in. From what I'm understanding, and I believe that you are on the wrong side of issues. It's Lake Forest's chance to have a fresh new start. I ask council to make the right vote for the mayor, voting on the very things that you spoke tonight. I wrote some of them down. Growing as a team, partnership, I'm going to say moral turpitude, compassion and human spirit, being a friend. And I want to also congratulate all of the people that are newly arrived tonight. And I've been a volunteer and working to support all of you. I do a lot of volunteer work in the city as well. And so just remember this in your vote today. I ask you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Diane Caput, followed by John Bush. Diane Caput. John Bush, followed by Margie Metzel.
Greetings again. Thank you. My name is John Bush, otherwise known as Anonymous Source. If you look through any of the different media, most all of the actual anonymous sources came from my emails, my phones, and those such things. It's kind of funny, as Mr. Gardner, I don't want to get into all that, just as for a point, denied it. A lot of the involvement. Many of those emails came accidentally when he gave me his thumb drive because he could no longer handle the job of validating the signatures on the recall campaign, which he was heavily involved in. In fact, he and Adam Nick were my bosses to email me constantly to tell me how to run the campaign because I was the one who actually did the recall campaign, unfortunately, until I found out that there were illegal activities in which I turned to the city, in which turned to the district attorney's office, and where that is now, involving Mr. Nick, Mr. Gardner, Ms. Basil, many other people, including it because I've turned in all the information. So I can safely say that. I can't say where it's at, but I can say I put the information in there. That being said, many of the emails and things were accidentally given to me by Mr. Gardner because they kept me out of the loop of some of those things when he gave me the disc for the recall. That's how I have the facts. So anybody who wants to say this didn't happen, that didn't happen, I'm the guy who handed them to them. I'm the one who had them. I sat in Miss Basil's home many times because she talks about how Mr. Morper couldn't have been involved because that wouldn't be proper. I was campaign manager hired by Adam Nick. Many emails, many notes stating, get me reelected, get Leah elected, and get that A so-and-so out, meaning Mr. Robinson. I sat in Miss Basil's home creating flyers detrimental to Mr. Robinson to be put out along with her campaign flyers and Mr. Nick's campaign flyers. So when we hear somebody say, Mr. Morper couldn't do it because it's not proper, and they, 2 years before, sat with me doing that exact same thing as I ran those 3 campaigns, I don't think there's much more needed to be said about who is not mayor tonight.
Thank you for your comments.
Margie Matzel, followed by John Claycomb.
Mayor Pro Tem Basil, thank you.
Welcome.
First of all, I just wanted to say congratulations to Mark Teddimer, Councilmember Teddimer, and newly elected Councilmember Mo Dizzetti. There's no probably secret that Mark and his beautiful family have been friends of mine for 15 years, but I'm stepping out of my friendship to speak as a constituent and a citizen of Lake Forest. Mark, Councilmember Teddimer and Councilmember Mo Dizzetti ran a clean campaign amidst slander. I've been coming to meetings faithfully for like 16 years. I've never seen such awful things happen. They held their head high, did not respond and retaliate against their opponents, whose names I won't mention. They just ran on the issues and how to make our city better. So I'm sorry that you had to go through that on a personal level for Mark as a friend, and also Nikki, meeting her about 3 months ago. I just want to say that, with all due respect to Councilmember Robinson and Voights and Councilmember Dizzetti, you're all qualified position, but we need to bring the city back. We need somebody that has direction, a moral compass, which I can definitely admit to. As a matter of fact, a quick story was, when I worked on Mark's campaign in 2004 and 2008, I was jogging along Trabuco, and there was a sign for an opponent, and the first year he ran, I think there was like, 7 people that ran. And I, admittedly, a lieutenant, pulled a sign of one of Mark's opponents, and I went home and said, Mark, I pulled a sign. He goes, Margie, thank you for your support, but please put that sign back. That's the kind of man we need sitting in that middle seat. I just want to end by saying that, all due respect, Councilmember Robinson and Voight's definitely qualified, but we need Mark, his experience. He's got moral and integrity. And a quick last story is, at the first meeting we had when we were trying to get Mark to run again, and I met Nikki that first night, she asked the crowd of people there, can a clean campaign be run in Lake Forest amidst all the stuff that's happened in the last few years? And this is a true story. I know you know this, Nikki. I immediately raised a hand and said, yes, Mark ran a clean campaign in 2004 and 2008. I cited that example of pulling that sign that Mark asked me to please put back. He ran a third campaign in 2018 with the help of Brenda, his family, and friends. So we need that right now. We need Mark in that middle seat. He always says, I only get one vote. I represent all 78,000 citizens of Lake Forest, not just a small group. So please, I ask you, council members, to support Mark Teddimer as our next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
John Claycomb.
Welcome.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say lived here since 1975, and I used to shop at Alpha Beta when Ralph's and Vaughn's and Stater Brothers weren't there. I got you, Scott. Charger, too. I like what I see. We have 2, old guard. We have a brand-new rookie, somebody that came back out of retirement. And I guess, Leah, you are now probably a veteran after you're in your 3rd year. So I think this is going to be a lot better than what we witnessed. Before I start, I know he's abrasive, but I do want to thank John Bush for being an anonymous source and helping with this change. Thoroughly needed it. I'm going to speak on who I think should be mayor. I think we've heard enough of the negative. Let's hear why somebody should be. We had Mark Teddemer as a mayor twice. Clean campaign this last time. Didn't go on social media, which we witnessed with our former mayor. We had issues with that, as everybody knows, and I think that's part of the change. He did a lot of good things, but unfortunately, he came off not so well for our city. I've lived here a long time, and I think Mark's the best choice for mayor. I don't even know if you want to run, but I'm begging you. I begged you last time to run when we had the meeting, to run for council. Now I'm going to ask you to run for mayor, and I hope everybody, I know Leah might also want to be mayor, but I want to see Mark as our mayor again. I think the change that we just witnessed would be perfect for Mark to lead us in for the next year. And I appreciate all of you guys, and good luck. Work together so we could come here at council meetings and have a good time and be proud of our city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Nothing further for the public, but Facebook, I believe Jonathan has.
Facebook?
Yes. Sean Fletcher, comment to council. It is my understanding that councilperson Leah Basil has been campaigning for consideration for the position of mayor for the newly seated council. I would request that the new council not consider her for the position. The mayor is not just an honorary position. The person who holds that title is the face and primary representative for our city. Unfortunately, Councilwoman Basil has aligned herself with the interests of Adam Nick in terms of major monetary contributions to her campaign, as well as supporting a failed recall effort that cost the city significant money. During the last election cycle, the people of the city of Lake Forest clearly spoke against Adam Nick's brand of nastiness and dirty politicking by rejecting both of his heavily supported candidates for council. The city of Lake Forest needs a fresh and clean start to bring honor, integrity, and respect to our elected representatives. Allison Taub, comment to council. I would like to remind the council and everyone commenting on the results of the election that council members were elected by districts, and there are residents in 2 districts of Lake Forest that did not have an opportunity to vote for anyone. The, quote, people of Lake Forest, unquote, have not voted for anything. Many of us voted in the past for some of the current incumbents and would vote for them again if we had the opportunity to vote for anyone. I support Leah Basil for mayor. Doug Ward, comment to council. I would like to strongly urge the council to not select Mrs. Basil for our next mayor. Consider who paid for over 90% of Ms. Basil's election costs, Adam Nick. Additionally, she has been known to be affiliated with known forger Josh Biskay, or Josh Abner, depending on his audience. Council Watch has provided documented evidence of personal attacks by Ms. Basil and her accomplices trying to have private citizens fired from their jobs. This is despicable and intolerable. I fear that if she were to become our mayor, it would allow Nick and Gardner to continue to influence our city when the citizens have clearly stated that they do not want these individuals involved any longer when they were voted out. Please consider Mark Teddemer as mayor in lieu of the fact that Dwight Robinson has made it clear that he is not seeking the position, and consider Nikki as mayor pro tem to learn the ropes and take over in due time. Our city needs a fresh look and feel on the city council. Sherry Anderson, council comment. I highly support Leah Basil for mayor. Council members Voights and Robinson have had their turns in recent years. The new members have only attended a couple of meetings and haven't been around city council for years. Mrs. Basil would be the best choice for our city. Steve Coover, council comment for council. I wholeheartedly recommend Leah Basil for mayor. Her ears are used more frequently than her mouth, and she spends a significant amount of time listening and seeking discussion from those both in need of assistance and with information regarding specific events, community needs. Of all council members I have personally interacted, she holds the highest esteem in my mind. Stephen Smith, comment for council. I believe Leah Basil has many serious questions to answer. During this last election, you mentioned that the city of Lake Forest is the only city in the nation with Facebook Live. Are you serious with this claim? A simple internet search finds that there are many cities in Orange County that have Facebook Live. How can you miss this easily searched fact? Also, you have claimed that you want to limit noise against Pepinos. However, you want to limit all noise throughout the city to levels that would stop vehicles from traveling through town, kids playing on the playgrounds, etc. How could you possibly believe this low level of noise can be achieved?
Thank you. All right, so I'll open it up to the council for nominations.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I move that Mark Tettemer be nominated for mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem, first I just want to start with some comments. I appreciate all the feedback that people have provided tonight, of what people have provided via email, some people reaching out to me over the phone, and I consider, even though for the most part this position is ceremonial, I understand that it's one that is incredibly important to many residents in the city, and so it's not a decision that I take lightly. With that said, I have a differing opinion with what the election results are telling us. And I'm looking at it from a broader perspective. So I'm looking at the last few election cycles, and really the last two more than anything. I squeaked by in my election. Won by, I think it was 99 votes, so it definitely was in two digits and maybe just barely. Very, very close election. And as I reflected on what I felt the residents were telling us, and it's difficult to know when you're looking at over 80,000 people in this town, what they're all telling you, but as I reflected, what I felt like the community was telling us was stop fighting. Find a way to work together. And I think that the five of us are going to be able to do that no matter what decisions we make tonight, whatever policy differences we may have over the ensuing months. I feel like we're five individuals that will find a way to work together. But, again, it's incumbents have been thrown out, and I just barely squeaked by. I think if there would have been a candidate that maybe would have fit the bill a little bit better, it's possible that I would have been out as well. And I looked at those, election results from 2 years ago, and Ms. Basil won just about every precinct in this town. I may have won one, and if she didn't win it, she came in second, and that was throughout the entire city. So that's something that I think that I need to pay attention to. At the same time, prior to this election cycle, there were the opportunity to vote for multiple candidates. You weren't voting in a district. So I can only imagine, and some people have told me, so I have some anecdotal evidence, that there were residents in Lake Forest that voted for me and Ms. Basil. There were residents that, strangely enough, voted for me and former council member Nick. There were residents that voted for neither of us. I had some residents that told me they only voted for me and didn't vote for a second candidate at all. I can only assume that happened with other candidates. So with that said, it's difficult for me to extrapolate what the residents were really saying in that election cycle, because they very well could have voted for the both of us. And they wanted to see the two of us work together. And, there's, when you dig into campaigns, there's some things that cross a line, no question about it. And, I don't know all of the specific facts. I've seen certain pieces of information that have been provided to me. I don't know the full scope of it. When people are first running for office, they make a lot of mistakes. I think each one of us could probably say we probably made some mistakes, at least in our first campaigns. And, it's a learning process. It's running for a local government seat. You probably don't have a paid treasurer. You probably don't have a political attorney on staff to help make sure that you're doing everything correctly. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying that, mistakes are made from time to time. With all that said, I just want you to understand where my head's coming from, because many of you that have come to the mic have emailed, phoned me. Some are friends, some are acquaintances, Some are supporters, some are people that I've never met before or talked to, and they just want to reach out and share their perspective. And I appreciate that and take it very, very seriously. At this time, again, I feel like the residents, more than anything, are telling us that we need to find a way to work together. And I look at the policy that we put together, not that it has to be followed. We can pretty much do whatever we want with our city council policies, but it's one that I don't want to change simply because I feel like I won. That's not that's a character issue for me. If I'm going to change an opinion that I had just a few months ago, I either should have been more forceful in opposing it back then, or I should be embracing it right now. And since I wasn't forceful in opposing it back when we followed through with it in February, I think that I need to stick with it. So with all due respect to the motion, I'm going to nominate Mayor Pro Tem Basil for mayor for the remainder of 2018 and 2019.
Madam Clerk, a point of order. The first was never seconded. I'd like to clarify. I came in with an open mind. I think that some of the council members that have served on this city council have been less than respectful of the position of honorable. I think that serving the city at the beholden of the people, of the vote of the people, is a great honor. And we've all earned the title of being honorable. And so it is a great honor and a privilege, but with that comes a duty to have our differences not be aired from the dais or play politics from the dais, as some have here in the city of Lake Forest, that have been rightfully changed. I'm excited about the future of Lake Forest because I alone am the only council member up here that have had the pleasure of serving with newly elected Mark Tettemer. I served 2 full years with him, and I didn't always agree with them, and I voted against them many times, and I actually even voted for an alternate mayor candidate one year because I was asked, and for no other reason but I was asked. And I think that the people of Lake Forest have spoken in a resounding election, where an incumbent mayor, in the first time in the history of Lake Forest, an incumbent mayor has been unelected to the seat of mayor. And I think that that's the voice of the people. And then all of you, along with the Facebook people, have come here tonight and sat through a lengthy meeting to have your voices heard. I think that we owe it to you for your diligence and your concern about the future of Lake Forest. Not that I have no animosity towards Mayor Pro Tem Basil, and I think that she'd be a great mayor. I think that she's a great city council person. She's been tied with the wrong people, and I think that this is a chance for us all to work together. But with that said, I'm respectfully and encouraged by the participation of the people, not a few squawking boxes, but the people. You guys have spoken in 2 different districts of the city in resounding victory, and so I'm going to second the motion of Nikki for mayor of City of Lake Forest, Mark Tettemer.
Right now it's really a watershed moment for this council because, we do have a policy in place, of course, that the pro tem becomes the mayor for the following year because we want to make sure that there's no political jockeying and there's no shutting people out of being the mayor because as an elected official, the residents of the city have chosen us to represent them. And as part of that, every member of this council, and I've always felt in fairness, should have an opportunity to be mayor. I stepped back last year to be mayor last year because that would have potentially happened with Mayor Gardner, and I felt in fairness that every member of council should have that opportunity. So I stepped aside on his behalf so that he could be mayor, and I'm glad I did. I actually think he did a pretty good job. But right now, it's a watershed moment for this council because we have to decide what kind of council are we going to be. Before I joined this council in 2015, I remember sitting in the back of the room just scratching my head. I could not figure out what was going on. The poor city staff is just literally sinking in their chairs. The council's fighting with each other. The council's yelling at staff. Council's yelling at the audience is yelling back. And 2016, I got voted in, and it was an immediate change. There was a complete culture shift. The fighting stopped. And I was the only one who changed on the council from the last election. I was the one and only change. And I've spent 2 years trying to make sure that this council works together, that we are not a 3-2 vote or a 4-1 vote against anyone. And I think I've done a really good job of doing that. There has been a significant culture shift these last 2 years. And my vote has always been my own. And there have been many times that I have disagreed with everyone on this council, with Councilman Robinson, Voights, with former Mayor Gardner, because my vote has always been my own. And I feel that that's very important. And also, I've spent my life helping people. From my many years service flying back and forth to Bolivia to help build an orphanage, to the 8 years I've volunteered on my HOA board to make it solvent and make my community a great place to live, to the 2 years that I've spent on the city council literally changing the culture of these meetings and making them better, where we are actually working together and we are agreeing and we are making changes. I have done my part, and I have done an incredible job, and I'm proud of that. And I'm here to change the world. I'm here to make my community a better place to live. And my votes have reflected that. That never has it been an us versus them. And I feel that today is that watershed moment. Is that going to be the council that we're going to be? Are we not going to be fair and equitable? And are we not going to work together? Or are we going to try to really put our minds together, do things in fairness, do things the way policy and protocol dictate, and to let a person be the mayor who has been serving diligently and faithfully and bringing peace to this council for the last 2 years. The vote is everyone's call, but it just makes more sense to allow someone to have an opportunity to be mayor. Let me prove myself. If I fall flat on my face, then good, I deserve it. But if I do a great job, and I know I will bring more honor to this community, to these residents. I was voted in with 14,000 votes. I beat out both incumbents in my election, and I did win 38 out of 39 precincts. And there was a reason for that. And I've continued to keep my word to the people. I have helped hundreds of residents since I've been on council. I am attached to Facebook groups that have up to 10,000 people, and I bring their ideas and their concerns to the city manager all the time. She's got a huge list from me because I'm always talking to residents. The residents have always been my first and primary goal. And I think that it's also really important for us to focus on, do we want to be the kind of city that focuses on all the negative things and the missteps that people make? Are we going to kick people when they're down and throw stones at them? Or are we ready as a city to turn that around and stop looking at all the negative, but instead let's look at what we can do together? Are we going to make changes to the city and be a better community and look forward and work together? That's the question. It's a watershed moment.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, may I did not know we were in debate, by the way, so appreciate to speak. Thank you. This is a very challenging decision and a very difficult first vote. You and I had met for coffee to discuss some of your accomplishments while being on council, and I do think they were quite admirable, and I do think you're a very nice person. But this is in a kindergarten classroom, and I work for a corporation where we have a code of conduct, and if we do not follow the code of conduct, we get reprimanded. We don't get promoted. If we don't follow the rules and if we don't follow ethics, we get a slap on the wrist, right? And city government is very much run like a business, especially in Lake Forest, given the fact that we are a contract city. I think as leaders, oftentimes we have to make decisions that are very unpleasant. I respectfully disagree with the fact that this is a watershed moment. It doesn't determine what our future will be like as a council. I think we can all work together after this vote, however it ends up. But I think this is really not about how you started and what votes you got in the beginning. It's really about how you're legislating and how you're working now. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And it's really imperative that we scrutinize our leaders' judgment and their judgment calls. And that's really what I'm basing my decision on. 70% of people who spoke this evening were not in favor. I have received many phone calls from constituents concerned about this vote, and I cannot, even if I wanted to, vote against the constituents, given the mandate that we were given this election. So that is why I selected Mark Teddemer to be mayor.
So I too have no inclination that Mayor Pro Tem Basil would make a great mayor, a good mayor. I think that her past affiliations with some people that I think have, at best, have shady backgrounds. I've been called a gang member. I've been called for sale by fellow council members, and I think that we need a fresh break from that. I think that we need to look into not this gang, not that gang. I think that the voters have spoken, you have all spoken, and I hear you loud and clear. I know that everybody here on the dais have heard you, but this is not a watershed moment. I think that the city of Lake Forest is going to go forward and be benefited by our new council, and I think that Leah Basil will make a great part of this council, and I think that she'll be a great mayor. But at this time, I think that the distrust that the people have shown and echoed, and we've heard, you've said it time and time again when I'm out and about, people, I'm even getting text messages now from people, who's the mayor? Is it Mark? I've got to listen to the people on this vote, and I've heard you, and so there's been a first and a second. I call for the vote.
All right, let's vote. I'm sorry, can we repeat the motion?
To clarify, yes, I have Councilmember Modizzetti nominated Councilmember Teddemer as mayor, with the second from Councilmember Voits.
Cast your votes.
That motion carries with Councilmember Basil and Councilmember Robinson opposed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the comments tonight. I think there's an opportunity for us to show the community that we can work together.
Yes.
And I would love everyone to have a chance to be the mayor. I would never close the door for that conversation. I served on the council from 2004 to 2012, 8 years, and went through this process many times. And I always took the same view, and that is, I want the people that have done right by the community and not divisive, not undermining anybody or anything, and I think our highest job is to always find ways to bring this community together. And my view over the last few years is this community has been torn apart in a way that I don't think is productive or healthy at all. So I very much look forward to working with the council to mend fences, to get back on the high road. I don't want to be on the high road. I want to build the high road and be on it. So I look forward to working with the community and my council colleagues and city staff, and let's put our best foot forward. So thank you to my colleagues for their support. Let's see, Madam Clerk, where am I picking this up here? No, I know that. I was just trying to make sure I'm, oh. Okay, so I guess with that, we are going to open the floor for nominations for Mayor Pro Tem for 2019.
So Mayor Pro Tem Basil, are you interested in doing it for a third year in a row?
I'm going to be a lifetime pro temmer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, I'll nominate Mayor Pro Tem Basil.
And I'm really hoping that next year, that in all fairness, that I will have that opportunity to be mayor. Already earned it.
I'm going to make a substitute motion that Nikki Mosey is the Mayor Pro Tem.
I will second the motion for Councilmember, I'm not going to say this correctly the first time, I'm sorry, Motizetti. It's only one.
Point of order, I believe we vote on the first motion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, with nominations, it's backwards from how we usually do it. The first nomination made is voted on first. The second nomination made is voted on second. Typically, a substitute motion is voted on first. In this instance, with nominations, we vote on the first nomination that's made first.
Okay. So that we are, so then to make sure we're clear, this is on a motion for Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem Basil.
To become the mayor.
The
I'm sorry,
motion-
Mayor Pro Tem.
That's correct.
Okay, please cast your votes.
That motion fails with Councilmember Boytz, Motizetti, and Tedemar opposed.
Okay, so we'll move on to the second motion, which was for Councilmember Motizetti to become the Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, please vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
Okay, with that, we have a city manager's report.
I have nothing further this evening.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. Okay, it's time for council member comments. Councilmember Basile. Basil, I'm sorry.
No comments at this time, thank you.
That would be Mayor Pro Tem Motizetti.
No comments at this time, thanks.
Councilmember Robinson.
I'll be as brief as I can here. There's been some comments about already issues at Veterans Park with respect to geese. Can you kind of explain a little bit about what our cleanup process is? I know that we have the steam cleaner, power washers, but if you can explain that, and then do we have some ideas on how we might be able to enhance that in any way?
Yes,
So.
I can have Tom, actually, he's prepared a little outline because we thought this might come up, so let me toss it over to our Public Works Director.
Thank you.
Thank you, and council will get a full copy of this in their Thursday update. Let me see. So we're basing our strategy out there on the Humane Society has got a very good pamphlet. You'll get a copy of it. It's Solving Problems with Canada Geese. I don't know why they don't call them Canadian geese, but it's Canada geese. You'll see that. And it's really, their suggestions are based on 4 factors. It's habitat modification, it's reproduction in their nesting cycles, limiting human feeding, and site aversion. So we've done the habitat modification through the construction process, so that's one of them. It'll take months for all the grasses to grow up, the taller grasses that the geese don't like, and some other things. Curtailing reproduction is something that our consultant, which we have on board, can help us with, wildlife consultant with greasing eggs and things of that nature, if it's necessary and permitted. Site aversion is something where you try to make the geese feel uncomfortable at the park, where there's some ownership at that park with those geese, or there certainly was in the past. And that's a couple different physical things that you can do. We've got, and we've tried reflective items out there that they don't like, makes them feel uncomfortable. We've got coyote decoys that we've put out, so it's a number of things. We have a remote control vehicle that we use to to haze the animals, and it's making them feel uncomfortable, where they're not totally comfortable. We know it's a lake. We know it's a great field of grass. We know they're going to come, and that's okay. But we have to manage and mitigate those. And the last factor is limiting the human feeding, which we were managing the park well before we let the people in. And now we've got some issues with that. And so this weekend we're going to start, Ms. Ackerman can add more details, but we'll start the code enforcement process in earnest, where we're enforcing the wildlife ordinance. That's, if you recall, the council increased the fine. And so we'll be doing that starting this week. And between that and what you'll learn about geese is they're very smart and they're adaptable. And if you try the same thing over and over again, they'll figure it out. They learn to recognize people. They recognize people in uniforms. They recognize these different things. So you got to try multiple things, different ways to try to get their attention. And basically, we can't harm them or touch them without permits, but we can harass them, and that's one of the things the Humane Society says to do, so they don't feel comfortable. So that's the approach we've been taking. Now we're approaching the last variable, which is really the people feeding the ducks. We got a number of complaints over this past weekend, which is the first weekend we didn't have staff there over the weekend, and a number of people just feeding them, and then the ducks get used to humans. It caused deformations in the birds themselves, the wildlife. It's not healthy for the wildlife. It's not healthy for the park. And I can give you some gross factors about how much feces each goose produces, but you can see it when you walk out there, and it doesn't take but a very short amount of time when you get 200 geese there to just make that pristine park look really bad. So we're cleaning the park 3 times a week. Right now, power cleaning, we clean it. We were doing it 2 days a week, Fridays and Tuesdays. We're going to up that also, and we'll continue to just harass and try different things and see what works best is really the current strategy right now.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I appreciate it, and it's something that we definitely need to keep a very close eye on. Obviously, I mean it's it's a fantastic park. We spent a lot of money on it. We had some cost overruns, which we didn't anticipate, and some that we caused ourselves by adding to it. I understand that part, but it's an asset that I want to make sure stays at a very high quality, especially in the first few weeks, months, years. 30 years from now, I won't hold you to the same standard that I do today. But just keep us informed, please, and I expect that the residents do the same. It's not a park that I frequent every day or every week. I'm going to go out of my way to make sure that I get over there frequently, because I think it is a really important one for us. So thank you very much. Other than that, I just want to congratulate my new colleagues and my returning colleague. I want to congratulate the Mayor Pro Tem for her service last year as Mayor Pro Tem. I really hope that we can find a way to work together. I think the community expects us to. They don't want to see us fight and bicker in any way. I think that we've actually done a pretty decent job over the last few months. I mean, probably at least well over a year, and maybe the last 2 in total. And we've had a few bad meetings. We all know which ones those were, and there's a variety of different reasons for that. But on the whole, I think that we found a way to work together. I want to make sure that we continue that, because that's what the residents really expect. And lastly, I just want to thank the staff, because I was just mentioning to someone today, they said, "Are you having fun?" I said, "I stopped having fun about 50 months ago." 50, right? Almost to the day. I can remember kind of when it just stopped being fun for me. And we have a great set of staff here that come to work every single day to try to make sure that this is a great place for the residents to live, work, play, and enjoy. And in spite of everything that we put you through at times, you do an admirable job, and I just want to thank each and every one of you. And so thank you very much, and have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you all for being here. Enjoy the evening. Good night.
Yeah, I'm on the last on the list.
Oh, sorry.
I too want to thank you all for being here and coming to voice your concerns about the future of Lake Forest. We are your servants, and we should listen to your voices. And so you came here. Thank you. I want to say thank you for Sheriff-elect Don Barnes. I think that the County of Orange, the City of Lake Forest, is truly blessed to have such a great leader in our county and in our city. I think that with the decline and the challenges law enforcement has, you have a man of character, man of faith, and a man of values as our sheriff. And so I want to say thank you for coming. It meant the world to all of us, and so thank you. You guys all have a great week and enjoy the holiday season. And thank you for your leadership, Mayor Burzell, and thank you, Jim Gardner and Tom Cagley. I didn't always agree, but Tom is a great man, a servant of the people, because he has been a military. And though I didn't support or agree with Jim Gardner all the time, he did try. And even though I didn't agree with it, he was a hard worker. So we owe him a debt of gratitude too. Thank you, staff.
Thanks again. Good night.